9:59. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Pittsburgh Steelers made waves on Monday with a blockbuster trade acquiring Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick and a pick swap. But a new deal has not been struck with Steelers star pass rusher T.J. Watt, who is still looking for a new contract. Adam Schefter reported on Monday that multiple teams are mulling trade offers for the 30-year-old who did not participate in mandatory minicamp. Legal tampering is underway in the NBA. The Memphis Grizzlies are signing all-star Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 5-year, $240 million maximum renegotiation and extension. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you for the next 3 hours. We got Lucas, we got Robert, you got me, and Bruce Feldman will be here in just about 20 minutes from now. He's done some good reporting from Elite 11. He's also got a great feature up on Arch Manning, so we'll talk to him about both of those things here shortly. I've got UFC tickets to give away at 10:45 today. If you call in at 10:45, not yet, and tell us what in sports made you say, oh, no. I'm sure we'll get some good submissions because that's a good prize, and I'm excited to go to this UFC fight. Lucas is going to be leaving for, are you going to Italy or Brazil?
I will be in Brazil.
Okay.
So I will be in the homeland of at least one of the fighters you'll be watching.
Yeah, and Robert has almost talked me into going to the WWE SmackDown event that is also happening at Bridgestone Arena in conjunction with the UFC fight on Friday, the 11th, which would be my first exposure to professional wrestling other than watching that Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix this past year.
Are you excited to potentially yeet and tell people that you cannot see me?
What?
You would have to be part of the culture.
Is that the lingo?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It depends who's coming out.
I was like, what are you talking
That
about?
one went right over my head.
It's like, I don't even know what that means.
Well, that's good. I can't wait to see you. Someone who talks about the pores would want to talk about pro wrestling fans who are possibly the most disgusting, ugly, vile fans of anything. So I would love to see you amongst the people.
I am going to sit you in the 300 section, and I'm going to sit close to the ring.
Stinky people can sit up there, too.
Well, fair enough. I feel like I need to clarify. I feel like I need to put out a public apology regarding the terminology of the pores. The pores are you two. That's who I'm referring to when I talk about
Well,
the
now
pores.
he's backtracking.
Yeah. So
Now
I'm
we've been
content
trying
to
to
point and laugh at you two pores.
We all know that you threw away your PS5 instead of giving it to someone less fortunate that would have made their entire year. It's okay.
Well, that's not pointing and laughing at the pores. That's just
it's
me
okay.
throwing away.
We've seen your true colors. No going back now.
Expensive.
What are you running for office? What are you trying to clean this up?
No, why
going
would
back now.
No, God, you. Who would be most likely to run for office of the three of us? Would it be me?
No.
I don't think so.
It would be me. I would run at a very small local level.
You would probably win.
Oh, yeah. I would win.
comptroller.
Based on school board. I feel like where we are in the political landscape, I think you would do well. I think we should run you for office. In fact, I will support your campaign.
Okay. I love that. When do I have to sign up for all that stuff?
I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll look at the paperwork this afternoon.
Can we have like a student council president here? Could I run for like some kind of radio
a zone?
senate? Yes, radio
I feel
student
like you
council.
are that.
I just want another title and a trophy.
That doesn't mean anything. These
Yes.
are just hollow titles that
Yes,
you're compiling. They don't
100%.
actually give you any power. You've made no impact as far as I can tell. What have you done with your power that you claim to have, allegedly, other than hire a bunch of people who quit
fixing
right
all
away?
of the issues in the men's bathroom. There was a large hole in the wall. I'm
You
fixing
probably
that.
caused the issues in the men's bathroom. If I had to bet money on who was most likely to have kicked a hole in the wall 3 years ago.
Has that gotten patched up?
By the way, why are we getting emails about something that happened 3 years ago? I was
Because
very
I'm
confused
cleaning
by
up
that.
the crime on the streets.
That hole in the bathroom wall has been there since before Lucas and I got hired.
I am also cleaning up the break room bandit, whoever is stealing the lunch of all of our faithful employees.
Again,
I'm on the hunt.
That's you.
No.
I just watched the two of you eat out of the same plastic container leftover chicken pot pie with what I'm pretty sure are like salad tossing utensils.
They were serving utensils.
Serving utensils.
It's what is it? Perforated. A perforated spoon was one of the better utensils in there, and a large serving fork.
It looked like a trident.
There's no more forks
what
around
Lucas
here.
was eating that chicken pot pie with, it looked to be something out of Little Mermaid. Either way,
It was very good. Shout out Cheyenne.
we have Bruce Feldman, as I mentioned, and we're going to get into some NFL stuff a little later on. But I was surprised by the amount of, is the WNBA still a polarizing topic among sports fans? Because I was surprised just generally at both feedback, positive and negative, that came out of the decision to expand the WNBA and not include Nashville. I think to not include Nashville is a mistake, but the logic, once you get into the details of it, makes a lot of sense. They're expanding to 18 teams by 2030, so 3 teams will join the league in the coming year, and they will be in Cleveland, they will be in Detroit, and Philadelphia, all 3 of which notably have NBA teams that are currently operating, and you can co-opt the WNBA franchises with the current existing NBA franchises in those cities. The quote from Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is, "The demand for women's basketball has never been higher, and we were thrilled to welcome Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia to the WNBA family. This historic expansion is a powerful reflection of our league's extraordinary momentum." A lot of descriptive words in here. "The depth of talent across the game and the surging demand for interest, or rather investment, in women's professional basketball." The buy-in was somewhere in the ballpark area of $250 million per franchise, which is a high for the WNBA. And as they are trying to look to get off the NBA's, basically to stop having the NBA supplement their income and basically carry the weight of a revenue or a league that has not generated revenue historically, they've started to turn the tide. But how much are they just trying to capitalize on the momentum of Caitlin Clark? Because that's the thing that exists the most tangibly, right? Where she's responsible for north of 25% of the total league revenue, which is insane.
Yeah.
A single player responsible for a quarter of any league's revenue is insane.
Well, and this all makes sense. I mean, even the Tennessee Summit's statement was, it almost felt like a presidential candidate conceding an election, right? Like, understand, fair and square, they said, "Well, we believe our proposed ownership group put a great foot forward for Nashville and the state of Tennessee with the concept of the summit. We understand and accept the WNBA's decision today in awarding franchises to NBA ownership groups." I don't think, I didn't know that right off the bat, that they were the same ownership groups as the NBA teams in those markets.
No, I don't think that was clear.
It wasn't that got WNBA teams. So you look at that, you say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. The Tennessee Summit is coming out and saying, all right, yeah, we understand what we're up against here. And they continue on to say this decision does not end our commitment to Nashville and women's sports fans. They will keep an eye on future opportunities. And Bill Haslam says he is confident that one day Tennessee will be the home of a major professional women's sports franchise.
What's the biggest reason that you would be able to come up with why they would give it to existing NBA franchise ownership?
I mean, it adds up, right? That ownership groups of the league that prop up the WNBA are going to get the WNBA in those markets should they so choose.
Why specifically do you think that makes sense?
I mean, it just makes sense. The WNBA exists because of the NBA, correct?
Yes.
Right. So if an ownership group in an NBA market, an ownership group of an NBA team wants a WNBA team in their market, of course they will get priority over.
Oh, yeah, no, but I'm saying why does that make sense? It's not just because they own an NBA team and there's priority. It's cost saving. You can compound the existing marketing, PR, all the infrastructure that you already have for an NBA team. You can just tack a WNBA team onto that. They're going to play in the same arena, so they can be run by the same people. They can be run by the same infrastructure. You don't have to pay an additional infrastructure. You don't have to build an additional infrastructure for those existing franchises or for those new franchises because the NBA ownership can just co-opt them.
Do the majority of WNBA teams belong to ownership groups of NBA teams?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I would not pretend to know very much about the W at all, other than, I'm a recent viewer of the WNBA, and that the league and the games are engaging. Like, the games are legitimately enjoyable. I know there's always been a stigma about women's basketball among people who are interested in basketball, the differences in the game and stuff like that. But I mean, it's been highly competitive, and there's some obvious storylines to follow now that were not previously present that help raise the level of interest in the league. But I do think it's a missed opportunity to not at some point eventually bring a franchise to Nashville. And that, I think that's probably a polarizing opinion, because if you gave people in Davidson County, and let's just make it a Davidson County thing, gave people in Davidson County the choice between the WNBA and Major League Baseball, one, I feel like there'd probably be a fair amount of pushback just generally on how much are we going to have to pay for this as far as taxes go. And two, I think the majority would probably say baseball in the argument, or in the audience. And I get that. Baseball is not any of our favorite sports as a show, but that's okay. I think all three of us have probably gone to live baseball games at some point in our lives and enjoyed ourselves. Whether it's a Sounds game, whether it's a Braves game. I've seen the Yankees play. I've seen the Rays play and stuff like that. Just the Reds have a fun ballpark. Like, it's just fun to go to a baseball game. It's a good outing, whether it's you're just going to hang out and eat hot dogs and drink beer and not pay attention to baseball, or if you're actually invested in what's going on the field. It's good for that too. The question with baseball here is, one, again, who's paying for it? And two, where is the ballpark going to be located? And would it even be a Davidson County thing, or would they have to take it outside of the confines and potentially have them play somewhere in Franklin or wherever there is real estate that is more available than the current situation currently is now? I think there's more momentum for baseball than there's ever been, but we still don't have the answer to the billion-dollar question, which is who's paying for it. And the WNBA would still be easier. It would still be more cost-effective to accommodate, even if there was not a pre-existing NBA ownership group in the city of Nashville. I would love the NBA to be in Nashville, but Memphis already has a team, and that's not changing anytime soon.
Every team, when the WNBA launched, was owned by an NBA ownership group. Before Monday's news, that number was down to 6 of 13 teams. So now you're talking about 9 of 16 teams with the 3 new expansion franchises beginning in 2028. 9 of 16 WNBA teams belonging to NBA ownership groups.
So Municipal Auditorium or Bridgestone, which is equipped to host basketball games. Obviously, the SEC tournament is here on a regular basis. So between Bridgestone and Municipal, they could accommodate a WNBA team. But again, you would have to then pay for the infrastructure of a WNBA team in Nashville. And they would have to be good, right? Whether it's baseball, whether it's women's basketball, no matter who it is, locals aren't going to support it unless it's a winning product. We see that with the Titans. We see that with the Predators. The Predators also, I think there's a couple of different things that have compounded that for the Titans and the Preds, though, because it's never been more expensive to go to an NFL or an NHL game. And I think a lot of the complaints, specifically, you hear it loudest from Preds fans because the cost of an NFL game it's not going down anytime soon. Preds price point has gone through the roof since that Stanley Cup run 8 years ago. And I think that the primary complaint, to give a call back to our predecessors in this time slot, has been, it's not cost effective to go to games anymore, and the product sucks.
The product doesn't feel like it's going to get marginally better either for the Nashville Predators in the very short-term future.
So I think it'd be fun to have women's basketball here. I think it would be an event. Again, whatever the next city of Nashville sports endeavor ends up being, it would have to be a winning product. Nashville SC has done this better than anybody. They hit the ground running. How many consecutive years did they make the playoffs as an MLS franchise before they missed it last year?
2020 was their first season, so 2024 being their first year not making it, so that would be 4. And they're right back on top in the contending mix this year. By the way, a very happy birthday to one BJ Callahan.
I think he would like a win over Philadelphia on Saturday for his birthday.
44 years old, the Nashville SC head coach.
That's pretty young. 615-737-1045 is how you get in on the discussion if you want to do that. In fact, Bert, who's on the line? I'll take this phone call and then we'll do Bruce because I know I'm not going to take calls.
That was the whole reason I didn't put him on there, so you would go to break.
Okay. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
Hey guys, it's Lucas Panzica to tell you about what's going on this week at Fog Street Lawn Club. There's a lot going on. Now, starting with 4th of July. Coming up this Friday, Fog Street Lawn Club is offering a free 4th of July fireworks viewing celebration. It's a family-friendly event up there on the best rooftop view in all of downtown Music City. Now, if you want to attend, you got to fill out a form to RSVP so Fog Street Lawn Club can get a head count. Just go to fogstreet.com. That's FOGG Street.com to RSVP and take in the best view of the 4th of July fireworks. Bring your friends, enjoy their great British pub fare, whether it's the fish and chips, the Irish whiskey burger, the shepherd's pie wonton rolls. You really can't go wrong, plus an awesome drink selection. You can play lawn bowling on the rooftop, axe throwing next door, plenty of space downstairs or upstairs on that rooftop, and there's a concert series coming up later on this summer that you can go to fogstreet.com to get your tickets and check out that lineup. Also, U.S. men's national team, Wednesday in the Gold Cup semifinal against Guatemala at 6 p.m. Will be a great crowd there, and see you at Fog Street Lawn Club.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045. Jump in there if you want to. Bruce Feldman will soon be here, and we will talk about a couple of different things about his observations at Elite 11. He's got a really good feature piece up on theathletic.com today about Arch Manning and the process that Cooper and Ellen Manning took to get him to be the star quarterback that he projects to be right now. I don't really know what to do with Arch Manning this year. Like, it's clearly his team at Texas. There's no more Quinn Ewers. They are as interesting an SEC team, and probably, should they be favored to win the SEC this year? I would think so.
Yeah, there's nothing for you to do with Arch Manning but to sit back and watch and understand that the hype is as high for him as it is for any quarterback in college football, which we should remind folks.
I guess what I mean by I don't know what to do with him is I don't know if the hype is yet warranted. Other than the last name is Manning, and he plays at one of the most famous college football institutions, and that there's no controlling the hype, whether he is deserving of said hype or not.
Here's my opinion on Arch Manning. He would be the favorite for the Heisman if his last name was Johnson. He is, what is he? Let's pull up his measurables here for a second. He is a 6'4", former five-star quarterback, number one player in his class, that is at the University of Texas, that flashed in starting a few games last year and is surrounded by one of the most loaded rosters in all of college football. The Manning thing absolutely inflates it. Of course it does. But no matter what his last name was, Arch Manning would be a Heisman contender. He would be a Heisman favorite. He would be talked about as potentially the number one pick in the draft. In fact, the reason he's not being talked about as much for the number one pick in the draft is because his last name is Manning, and everyone's under the assumption that he's going to come back for yet another year at Texas, finish out his degree, all of these things. But I do want to prevent us from acting like the only reason Arch is having hype is because his last name is Manning.
Oh, no. There's a bunch of different things here. Like, he's a five-star quarterback coming out of high school with the last name Manning, playing at Texas. He is going to have hype attached to him. And he was good. Like, he was good against the competition that he played against when Ewers wasn't out there and available to be out there, but it wasn't the toughest competition, and there are still some things to pick apart about his game. I think that's fair. Now, can you over-scrutinize him also because his last name is Manning? Probably. That's going to happen top to bottom. But I think, how far Texas goes this year is going to be really, really interesting because it's just a good football team top to bottom, and it just also happens to have Arch Manning quarterbacking it this year.
Yeah, and he's a good player. Like, he is a ridiculous athlete. I think back to, I guess Cam Newton wouldn't be a good example because he got kicked out at Florida. Like, we saw some flashes of Cam Newton, the 5 stars, a freshman at Florida. But anytime you have a player with that sort of recruiting background, blue chip recruiting background, that has those little spurts and flashes in his first year with any action and is coming back around to be the starting quarterback with a loaded team, the hype's going to be off the charts. Of course it's going to be off the charts. It's just overinflated because of the last name. But it is still very much wait and see mode for Arch Manning as the starting quarterback at Texas, and if he can live up to the expectation.
Before Bruce Feldman gets on here and we dive into this story specifically, what are the Dolphins doing?
Yeah, the Chig trade is officially off.
Is it?
Yes.
They just traded for 33-year-old Darren Waller. That means the Chig trade is off?
I would say giving up draft capital for 33-year-old Darren Waller, who's coming out of retirement.
I should probably note that there is no Chig trade that was being discussed other than a hypothetical.
Yeah,
we thought it might be a good idea to move Chigakonko on a contract here.
Nobody in the country mentioned Chig to the Dolphins outside of our little bubble here in Nashville.
People were very excited for reasons, just to gain some draft capital. And I don't know where fans stand on Chig. Robert, Bruce is telling me that he's in there, but he's in the waiting room, so I don't know if that's a you thing or you guys can work through the logistics of that. That would be greatly appreciated. Sorry to put that on you in real time, but he just texted me. So the Waller thing is weird, though. Like, he retired with the Giants, so he has to be acquired via trade. It's kind of like Gronk with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New England Patriots a couple years ago.
Do you guys remember when Jimmy Graham did this for the Saints, I believe 2 years ago? They just randomly signed him in the offseason. I think that's what they should do. They should just bring in the old boys club of tight ends, because nobody on their roster is worth a darn at either position. So bring in Jimmy Graham, bring in Rob Gronkowski. You got Darren Waller. You'd have a super team in 2018.
Maybe so. Bruce Feldman will join us here in just a second. We'll talk about the Elite 11 stuff. Why have you not corrected me the 7,000 times I've called him Brandon Faison instead of Faison Brandon?
When have you been calling him Brandon?
Yes.
Like that's his first name?
Yes. I was very confused by it. Anyway, Bruce Feldman.
I must really not listen to you then.
Oh, we knew that much. Bruce Feldman of The Athletic and Fox is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. The feature story that is up at theathletic.com, Raising Arch, how Cooper and Ellen prepared the Texas quarterback for the Manning family spotlight. Bruce, I had no idea. Also, thank you for joining us. I had no idea, though, until I read your piece and read some of the quotes from Ellen Manning that you could simply just take cell phones away from children instead of letting them run roughshod over you and doom scrolling as much as they wanted. I had no idea that was a thing.
And it's a lot harder to do it than they made it seem. It was funny because I probably 10 years ago, I never would have thought to go down this road with the story about Arch Manning. But as a parent of twin 11-year-olds, it was a perspective that I was very curious about. And so it's not just the parenting piece of it, but also when you're raising the next Manning, and obviously when your grandfather is a football legend and beloved as Archie Manning is, and your two uncles each won 2 Super Bowls and are legends in their own right. But what's different, and obviously the expectations of when you're a famous person's kid or come from a famous family or have a famous last name, there are challenges. But Eli and Peyton, they did not grow up in the social media era. And they did not grow up when there were camera phones and smartphones and all the challenges that presents. So I was very, very appreciative for Cooper and Ellen, Arch's parents, for really opening up and talking about some of the challenges and how they navigated them. And it was fascinating to see it from that prism.
Well, and it's also, I think, important context in the reporting because it's easy for people to draw the connection between Peyton, Eli, and Arch, even though, as you point out throughout the course of this story, that Peyton and Eli's involvement in Arch Manning's life or their impact on his football style or how he plays the game, that needs to be attributed to Cooper first and foremost, because Cooper is the person most responsible for teaching him how to play football. I think people way too often make that connection between the two most famous Mannings. I guess Archie would be as famous as his two younger sons, but I just think it was an important thing for you to point out and to continue to emphasize throughout the course of that piece that Peyton and Eli didn't raise Arch Manning.
Yeah, at one point, Ellen was like, Archie was around quite a bit and has been, but it's really Cooper who taught him how to play football. And Cooper was the one who was the receiver in the family who was talented enough to get a scholarship to Ole Miss, but then had to medically retire for a health issue. But and Cooper was like, to be honest, and we know Arch is a much more athletic, has better feet than Peyton and Eli ever did. And Cooper was like, I think he gets his athleticism from Ellen. She's in her high school Hall of Fame, was a great track athlete and volleyball player. But as Cooper had said to me, he was like, Eli and Peyton were great influences, but they were probably only around Arch maybe 4 or 5 days a year. It was through the Manning Passing Academy for a couple of days and then for Mardi Gras, and that's it. And he was like, Eli has still never been to one of Arch's games. I guess he's supposed to go to one of the Texas games this year, but still hasn't been. I mean, they love them, but it's just because their own, life schedules have not lined up with Arch is in New Orleans or certainly now in Austin. So yeah, I think it's a natural assumption for a lot of people to make. And and everything like that. And as they both told me, they said, it makes for a better story, but that's actually not the truth.
Senior college football writer Bruce Feldman here with us on 104.5 The Zone. TheAthletic.com is where you can read his story, Raising Arch, how Cooper and Ellen prepared the Texas quarterback for the Manning family spotlight.
So as you kind of outline here, Bruce, everything about Arch Manning's recruitment was different, was not the usual for what college football recruiting is today in 2025. And there's this sort of blanket assumption that Arch Manning will not be coming out for the NFL draft next year, even if he has the type of season that is being expected of him with all this hype around him. Not to ask you to speak for Arch or his family, Bruce, but do you kind of get that sense as well? Would you be surprised if Arch Manning had a phenomenal 2025 and then declared for the NFL draft?
A little, just because I think they've been very careful in thinking, what are the best things that fit for you to blossom as a quarterback and to be the most ready. And even at one point, Cooper talks about like the timing of things to do something when you're most ready is the best way, because as he said in the story, there's plenty of times where we've seen the NFL is quick to throw people under the bus if they're not primed and ready to go for that moment. And so let's say he does have a great year. Let's say, it grows as well as Texas fans could hope, and he leads them to a national title. So they go 16-0, or they, play 16 more games. So he'd still only have 18 college starts, even if he were to start every game this year. That's not that much by an NFL, standards. And I think they know to do a 3 and out, he'd still be only 22 or when he gets drafted or just turned. I think if that was the case, I don't know if there's a big rush. We know there's not a big rush, from a financial standpoint with him. I think they're doing just fine. And I think it's like, what's the most important thing? The most important thing is to be the most ready possible. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee he's going to stay for the 2026 season, but I'd be a little surprised based on some of the conversations I had with him that he would do that, that he would bounce after 1 year as a starter, though.
Bruce Feldman of The Athletic with us. You were in attendance at Elite 11 last week, and the five-star quarterback that Tennessee fans are getting excited about, Faison Brandon, flashed a little bit. It sounds like Tennessee fans can't wait for him to get back on campus, Bruce, and kind of, just get this next phase of the Heupel era moving on from Nico, and Brandon is now kind of the next beacon of hope coming down the pipe. What were your takeaways watching him in action, playing alongside some of the best quarterbacking prospects in the country?
I thought the best thing I would say about him was in the 3 days there, I thought when the spotlight got brighter, I thought he elevated. And the first night of the competition, they had this rail shot challenge where it's a little bit the equivalent of, like, I would almost call it like a dunk contest, where each quarterback goes, all eyes are on them. There's tons of receivers around. They're surrounded by not just the other 19 quarterbacks who are taking part in the Elite 11, which have a couple of, Cade Klubnik, and there's a couple other college quarterbacks who are there as counselors. You have all the coaches and some families. So it's, it's under the lights, and Brandon won it. I mean, and it wasn't just one throw. It's like you have to answer, like it gets winnowed down to maybe the final 2 or 3 and gets to that point. You have to keep making the throws, and if you don't make one great throw, you're out. And so I think the fact that he elevated like that was impressive. I thought, I watched him in one of the accuracy challenges. I thought he was really sharp in that. And the other thing that, one of the coaches who runs the camp, George Whitfield, had pointed out to me was like, he just turned 17. He was like the second youngest quarterback there. And physically, when you see him, like, he's got this, strong lower body. And I think you could see why he's a 5-star. Big arm, it just, and Whitfield made this point, and I, reference it in the Elite 11 story I did. He was like, you can tell he's worked on his feet because he hits his drops. There's no bad steps. And I think they've seen improvement in him from the times that the coaches at Elite 11 had seen him earlier in the process. So he was one of a couple of quarterbacks who were highly touted when they came in, and they were as advertised.
At Bruce Feldman CFB is where you can follow along and find all the great stories that Bruce writes for The Athletic, as well as all of his insights on the world of college football. Your profile, this was a couple of weeks ago, Bruce, but your profile on Lenora Sellers was one of my favorite reads so far this NFL offseason, just trying to catch up on everything that's happening in the world of college football. To you, and I know there's a lot of details in there, but the South Carolina quarterback and kind of his rise to prominence as you document in the story, and now a projected top 5 draft pick potentially, depending on how this season goes, which we always, we approach with some level of hesitancy with different examples in years past. What's the most interesting thing about the Lenora Sellers story, though, to you?
I'm so glad I ended up doing that story because I only knew, he's really fun to watch. I didn't know anything about his backstory. And then talking to his high school coach, talking to both his parents, his quarterback coach who's been with him since 6th grade, and then to Lenoris, as well as some of his coaches who were with him at South Carolina. It was just like very refreshing to hear how grounded he seems to be. We can watch the highlights and watch he's almost unsackable the way he runs through, the entire Clemson D line or the entire LSU defense and runs by everybody. But I thought the wow stuff with him is you got this kid who was a great student, has wanted to be an architect from the time he was in 5th grade and still does. He kind of got that spark lit in him because he was in like one of those talented and gifted programs and still talks to that teacher who ran that program. And he could have left South Carolina for more money, but they were like, yeah, we're not interested in doing that. And I think everybody around him has had this great perspective on him. He was not a big recruit. Which was surprising to me in retrospect, just because of what we've seen on the field. But he was a 3-star guy who South Carolina themselves, even though he's in their backyard, didn't offer him a scholarship till like late October of his senior year. And so he really didn't have that much action on him compared to other, big, we're talking about Elite 11 guys. He was not like that coming out of high school. So just a really, really impressive, person around him. And that's why, who knows if he's really going to be a top 5 pick, if he's going to come out. He's still young. He's still 19, by the way. But I think the intangibles, the intelligence, the work ethic, and the humility, all those things make me think he is going to fulfill a lot of promise because of his work ethic and the way he's wired.
He's Bruce Feldman of Fox Sports and The Athletic. He's kind enough to make some time for us this morning. Bruce, we do appreciate it. Thank you as always. And just, we say it to you every time you're on. Just really enjoy the work. It's always really fascinating subject matter. And you bring out more interesting things from people who are already interesting enough. It's really enjoyable stuff. Thanks for doing it. That's Bruce Feldman with us on 104.5 The Zone. He just texted me and said, did I lose you guys?
He didn't. No, he didn't.
Yeah,
he didn't.
I
He
have
left.
the text.
He didn't say
I
goodbye.
have the text.
He doesn't
don't
care
believe
about
you.
Bye, Bruce.
Why?
That's Bruce Feldman. I guess he fell off. Sorry.
He's saying he's hearing some weird music. What are you playing for him in the background? What have you done to Bruce Feldman?
Why can he hear that? That was just for me to record with. God, that's like
the perfect timing for me to gush about this man's body of work and then for him to just disappear into the ether.
That's kind of like when you're trying to convince somebody like, I was talking to this pet psychic and I gave my cat a code word. It's like, I wouldn't have believed you until you said he was hearing weird music. I wouldn't believe you until he told you the code word.
I'm not that quick on my feet to say no. He lost the thread.
No.
I swear to God.
Bruce likes me. I promise.
You're breaking up.
Bruce.
The thing that I appreciate about this show, and there's not many things, but I appreciate that when we screw up and how comedically perfect some of the timing is, very rarely do we make mistakes that just go by the wayside, or like normal broadcast professionals try and sweep them under the rug. No, we'll just sit in here and sink in it for a minute. So bad.
Can't wait for you guys to learn the music that Bruce was having to listen to.
What did you do?
You'll find out.
615-737-1045. Call us and tell us what in sports made you say, oh, no, it could be that exchange right there. And for the opportunity to win tickets to what, Robert?
To go see UFC on July 12th, you get to see Derek Lewis take on, say that guy's name, Lucas.
I want you to do it.
Yeah, I would rather.
Tahara.
Teixeira?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Tell us on Teixeira.
well, if you would like to share with us, you better call us up 615-737-1045. Tell us what made you say, oh no, this week in sports.
Go. Trajan Wealth is here to help you with your financial planning needs. Like they've helped so many other people throughout the course of their company's history. They prioritize that as a fiduciary firm. And as fiduciaries, they always put the client's need first. When you need to make more money, they make more money. Trajan Wealth is a family-owned and veteran-led team, and they are there to help you with a combined decades of experience in the financial services profession. They focus on helping people in or nearing retirement better understand and prepare for the challenges associated with an ever-changing financial landscape. That's what Trajan Wealth does. They give you that financial peace of mind, and they're here to help you locally in Brentwood or Franklin. There are two locations where you can check them out. Their number is simple, 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. for the chance to win those UFC tickets coming to Bridgestone Arena next Saturday. Wait, is that next Saturday? No, that wouldn't be next Saturday. It's Saturday the 12th, either way.
Next Saturday.
Is that 615-737-1045 is the number? I keep forgetting it's Tuesday because we only have one more show this week. That's how you get involved. Let us know what in sports made you say, oh, no. Lucas, if you were out at the beach as you were getting ready to be, and you're going to where? Pensacola?
Pensacola.
What's the address?
I'll send it to you. I mean, you're welcome to come down. This is my buddy's house.
If you were on the beach with your buddies in Pensacola and you saw one of your buddies, I don't know if any of your friends surf, but one of your friends just decides to take up surfing on this particular day. And he paddles out into the water and he's trying to catch a wave, but instead of catching a wave, he gets caught by a shark. Would you swim out into the water and try and save your friend from the shark, or would you let the shark have his way with your friend?
Oh, I'd say it's been real.
It's been fun.
And I would mourn him for sure. Why?
Well, this Australian man is a much better friend than you are. In fact, I don't believe he knew the person who he dove into the water to save from the shark. But a person a teenager was in the jaws of a shark off the coast of an Australian beach. And a man ran up to the shark in the water, punched it in the face so that it would release, I guess, nose. The nose is the most sensitive part of the shark.
That's what they say.
Famously.
Their butthole.
Do they even have that?
Yeah, you think they just hold all their poop in?
I don't know, like what that looks like exactly. If that's just like a chute that it just,
They say you should either go for the nose or the hole on the shark. If you can't get to the nose, you got to find the hole.
I don't think they say that.
That's what I've been told.
Well, you've been told wrong, and I hope you go down that path one day, and I hope it doesn't end too terribly badly for you. But so Cabrita Beach in New South Wales, there's a video, shows a man charging the nearly 7-foot-long shark that is lurking near the shore while others rush the injured teen onto the sand to safety. This man punched the shark in the nose, got the shark to open its mouth, and then people were able to escort the injured teenager to safety. So you are a bad friend. This man, this hero amongst men, would save your friend even if you were not willing to.
So what made you say, oh no, in sports?
This man punching a shark in the nose.
Okay.
And you said it was a shark, and you said it was a whale.
New South Wales.
Well, what's that got to do with a shark?
Give your own no.
My own no. Bruce Feldman, who was just on the show, fantastic. If you missed it, it'll be up on a podcast. But I think he's missed his calling. I think that he is wasting his time delving into all of these college football stories and who's going to play, who's going to win the Heisman. All of that is for naught. Because if Bruce Feldman would simply take his energy and put it towards sports talk for sleep, I think men would appreciate this. And not to say Bruce is boring. He has a fantastic voice.
He's got good info.
Good info, but I don't think there is something that men can fall asleep to. What do women fall asleep to? Friends, The Office, Family Guy, maybe.
I also fall asleep to all those things.
What do men have? Men have white noise, rain. We don't have something manly to fall asleep to. So I present to you Sleeping with Men.
Also, women
by Bruce Feldman.
Oh, okay. It's a very rude thing you're doing to Bruce Feldman.
So sorry. Yeah. I just woke up. Sorry. So this is what made me say, oh no, in sports. Doesn't this just make you want to take the manliest nap ever? You'd be waking up talking about Oregon State's middle linebacker competition. Yeah, wiping the slobber off your face, baby. I don't know where this came from. Sorry, I just all of a sudden have a super attentive
need. Would you fade this down so I don't hear him droning in the background behind you?
You want to take a nap? I just want to dive into BYU's defensive line. I don't know what it is. If Bruce would take his energy and put out a line of sleep podcasts for men, he would make money hand over fist. That is my own no. You can't tell me that didn't make you feel a little sleepy. And it's nothing against Bruce. I just think that some people have a natural calling. Like, my calling is to not be on camera, to be back here and be round and portly. That's my calling.
He does have a very soothing voice.
It's a very soothing voice. Are either of you familiar with the Calm app?
I'm familiar.
So the Calm app is an app designed to help you do exactly that, whether you are somebody who's trying to focus on meditation in your life, whether you have trouble sleeping like I do, so you can download the Calm app, and it has several sleep stories that you can do the white noise thing, you can do sounds of the forest, you can do Cillian Murphy, the star of, is it Cillian or Killian?
We should have, God, when he does that, Lucas, we have to tell him the wrong name.
Yeah,
so he just purposely looks
So I keep
stupid.
calling him Brandon Faison instead of Faison Brandon.
Yes.
Anyway.
Tell me more about Cillian Murphy, please.
Cillian Murphy, the star of Peaky Blinders, reading you a sleep story about some train's journey through Ireland, right? Like that, Bruce Feldman should call his agent and be like, get me a deal with the Calm app. I will crush.
I wonder how Paul Feinbaum would do as a lullaby, read you to sleep kind of voiceover artist.
I could make that really quickly.
Is
You
this
think?
the music that he was hearing in the background
100%.
when he couldn't figure out what the hell was going on the Zoom call? I hope that was worth your bit. We're never going to get Bruce Feldman back now.
Well, let's test this out with Paul Feinbaum. As we listen to this exchange, Feinbaum was on the air with multiple other personalities on Get Up on ESPN, including Heather Dinich, including Dan Graziano. And they had this exchange on Texas quarterback Arch Manning, topical, after chatting with Bruce Feldman. What made me say, oh, no, is, this segment's just plugging along, and I'm listening to Paul Feinbaum. And then at the end here, I say, oh, no, Paul.
Paul Feinbaum, what are your expectations for Arch?
The absolute roof. I think there's a reasonably good chance that Arch Manning will be sitting on the front row in New York at the Heisman ceremony. That's assuming that his team does what it's supposed to do and compete for not only the SEC, but for the national championship. And I really believe they will. I think Steve Sarkisian, who's one of the most amazing play callers I've ever seen, made a critical mistake late in the year. He was way too loyal to Quinn Ewers, who was banged up and was really ineffective. Had Arch Manning been instituted in the second half of that game, like Nick Saban did a couple of years ago with Tagovailoa, I think there's a reasonably good chance that Texas would have beaten Ohio State and won the national championship. They're very capable of doing it again this year. I believe also that Arch Manning is the best college football quarterback we have seen since Tim Tebow entered the scene in 2006.
Arch Manning, the best college football quarterback we have seen since Tim Tebow in 2006.
It was completely reasonable analysis.
It was
until
all
that
reasonable.
Very last thing.
All
You
of
just had to slide it in, just the haymaker over the top.
All of it.
What was the reaction of the panel?
Oh, the clip just ends there. I mean, let me see.
Oh, my God.
That music kept me awake, though.
Yeah, it wasn't very lullaby-ish. But they're playing like Arch clips, so I can't see the faces on Heather Dinich and Dan Graziano.
Sure it's some combination of surprise and horror.
Like it's all
Paul.
okay. You expect him to be a Heisman contender and finalist. Okay,
fair.
Yeah. You think that Sark should have pulled a Nick Saban and put Arch in for Quinn Ewers. Can we argue it? Sure. You can argue it both ways. Fair. And then dropping that in there at the end.
Crazy.
Is the best. Not I think he is going to be, but he is the best we have seen since Tim Tebow. Oh, no. Paul Feinbaum.
You want to try it out?
With Feinbaum?
Paul Feinbaum, what are your expectations for Arch?
The absolute roof. I think there's a reasonably good chance that Arch Manning will be sitting on the front row in New York at the Heisman ceremony. That's assuming that his team does what it's supposed to do and compete for not only the SEC, but for the national championship. And I really believe they will.
Like taking an energy drink
I think Steve Sarkisian, who's one of the most amazing play
out.
callers I've ever seen.
Level you out.
That is auditory assault.
Were you drinking an energy drink and smoking a blunt?
That was it was
You'd just be high with the jitters.
That was my up and down. Like the lullaby is what brings you down. That's the blunt. But then you hear that ruckus sports music in the background. That's the energy drink. That's so you can function at CVS.
Is that what happened to you the other day when you came in here after drinking a peach monster or whatever the hell that was?
It was just the Monster.
Okay. 615-737-1045. If you give us the thing in sports that made you say, oh no, we'll send you to next Saturday's UFC fight at Bridgestone Arena. We'll take your phone calls on this next.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In a trade, the Miami Dolphins are sending a conditional 2026 sixth-round pick to the New York Giants in exchange for a 2027 seventh-rounder and tight end Darren Waller, who comes out of retirement at the age of 33 and agrees to a one-year deal with Miami worth up to $5 million. Of course, the Dolphins executed a blockbuster trade with Pittsburgh yesterday as they sent Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith up to Pittsburgh in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick. A pick swap also included. Legal tampering is underway in the NBA. The Grizzlies are signing all-star Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 5-year, $240 million maximum renegotiation and extension. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We got phone calls to take, so you can go to the UFC match on not this Saturday, but next at Bridgestone Arena. For the people who have been waiting patiently on hold, we'll get to you here in just a second for the thing in sports that made you say, oh, no, this week. Just a couple of things to get updated on before we go back to those phone calls. There's a lot of movement happening in the NBA. Currently, Darren Waller has been acquired by the Miami Dolphins via trade with the New York Giants. Waller was retired, but the Giants still owned his rights. So instead of trading for Mark Andrews or Dallas Goedert, or we posed a hypothetical of could the Titans potentially get some kind of pick back for Chigakonkwo, instead they are going to add 33-year-old Darren Waller to their roster. The Milwaukee Bucks, not the Tampa Bay Bucks, have waived Damian Lillard coming off the Achilles tear. The latest reporting from Chris Haynes at Yahoo is that Giannis is not happy that they have waived Dame Lillard, and Giannis's status in Milwaukee was already going to be a subject of some conversation this offseason with the player movement already starting. And that is, there's other NBA free agent things to update you on if you were interested in such updates, but those are the main headlines that would impact the vast majority of our audience today.
And SGA now has the richest annual salary for a player in league history.
Yes.
4-year, $285 million supermax extension.
So
and unfortunately for Damian Lillard, it made sense for them to cut him.
Yeah, made way too much sense.
Yeah.
And if you were interested, I assume that they did not, I don't know how those conversations go or what that conversation looked like, but it sounds like they didn't clear it with Giannis, who maybe they're not that interested in placating right now, which would be dumb. But I don't know.
It's also after the draft. So it's like any picks are devalued at this point. Feel like future picks aren't valued as highly. Like they're in a position now where it's like, okay, we are pretty much set with the team we're going to have.
He's about to be 35, Lillard.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Giannis. I was
No.
Looks great for 35.
Yeah. In exactly 2 weeks, he turns 35.
No, but that adds up. Damian Lillard has been around for 100 years, it feels like, in the NBA. And unfortunate that his season was overdue to one of 3 Achilles tears to a star player in the NBA playoffs this year.
It was extremely early, though, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It was like the first month of the season, I think.
His wasn't as recent as Tatum or Halliburton, obviously, but his was more understandable. They were having to figure the situation out. It was a weird fit anyway with Damian Lillard, but he's just trying to prolong his basketball career. Things didn't end the way that he wanted them to in Portland, and now it seems like Giannis may be on the move from Milwaukee this summer.
He tore his Achilles in Game 4 of the first round of the playoffs.
Who did?
Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Not the beginning of the season.
In the first round of the playoffs?
Correct. Against the Pacers.
Oh, I thought that was like an early season.
No. It wasn't at the start of the year.
That's when most people start watching it, though, so it can kind of feel like the beginning of the season.
No, and even then, I feel like most people check in it. Well, but like, think about you. You weren't watching the first round of the playoffs. Your whole thing was I checked back into the second round.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
did this happen like
in October?
I'm so wrong. Buck was on board though. Yeah. It was almost a year ago.
Earlier, not as late in the season
yes,
as
you're also
Halliburton.
Guilty.
And yeah, I know. 615-737-1045 is the number. Eric is who we'll start with.
Hey, good morning, guys. Before I start, I'm going to start my delusion as a depressed Miami fan. I think Giannis and Dame should come to Miami, in my opinion. So
Pat Riley doesn't land stars anymore, but good luck.
No, he doesn't. He's actually sleeping right now during free agency. We should be quiet so we don't wake him up. But anyway,
so disrespectful to a basketball legend. But go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. My oh no is for this Diamondbacks fan. He's a season ticket member, and I saw this pop up on my Twitter yesterday. Yesterday marked the fourth straight season where this fan who has season tickets in left field has been involved in a review and some sort of fan interference. Every single time there's a home run or a deep fly ball to left field, one time each season since 22, dating back to this year, he has had some sort of interference in it. And it's had to be like a whole review and all that. They've had to rule it like a ground rule double, or it actually was a home run. But I just saw that and thought, oh, no, like this guy 4 years straight has been involved in this. So,
that's crazy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call. Remember to stay on hold for the opportunity to win those UFC tickets. How about Henry and Franklin next?
But my oh no is looking through stuff this morning on my daily read with sports. Today is Bobby Bonilla Day.
Yes.
1.19 till 2035.
2035?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask.
Baby.
Another
Henry,
decade in it.
you could call back with that until 2035, and it will probably be the winner. That's crazy.
In 2035, he will be 72 years
When
old.
was his last game?
He hasn't played a game since 2001.
It's been so long. Oh, God. July is a fun month for a variety of different reasons, but the annual Bobby Bonilla Day reminder is
literally 3.5 decades after his playing career.
Craziness.
He gets a payday.
Peyton is in Hendersonville.
Hey, good morning, fellas.
What's up?
Mine doesn't have anything to do with sports, and if I don't win, that's okay. But something this morning happened that really made me say, oh, no, and a bunch of other people. The lady that ran from Nashville Police this morning got her tires spike stripped and then proceeded to go down 24 and shut down I-24 for an hour and a half and play Tag, You're It, and bumper cars with THP. That made me say, oh, no.
What is the story?
So many people. What's up?
No, I appreciate the call, Peyton. Are you too familiar with the story? I have no idea what he's talking about, but it sounds nuts.
All I know is that a woman early this morning, like before sunrise, was leading police. I saw Fox Nashville is capturing a lot of it. That this woman driving a stolen vehicle was moving at 8 miles per hour with all four tires flattened, leading the slowest police chase you have ever seen. Like
8 miles an hour?
Literally a slow speed chase.
I'm pretty sure Robert could jog faster than 8 miles an hour.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, we the three of us could just be running alongside as this car chase was happening. Yes. So apparently she was driving a stolen car. Yes. And it was they're just kind of plugging along 7-8 miles per hour for literally hours this morning.
Oh, sounds like they're still going.
Don't do that to people in their cars.
Oh,
no, that wasn't her.
You'll never catch me.
No,
You'll never catch me.
That sure as hell
You
wasn't
know
her.
how many people you just scared listening to their radio in the car?
Oh,
It's like when you listen to a Lil Wayne song and some sirens go off or something like that. You're like, oh.
No, there is a commercial we're running on the air right now that I'd have to pick a bone with because there's a bing, bing, bing in it that makes you sound like your seatbelt's not on.
Yeah.
And I check my seatbelt every single time. Next time I'm crashing my car.
The chase ended a couple hours ago. So, like, police cars got kind of around her on I-24, like Peyton said, got shut down. It was a huge mess, and they ended up, I guess, taking her in. But, yes, the slowest police chase of all time happened in Nashville this morning.
There's a video on News Channel 5's website that I'm waiting for an ad to pass so I can watch. Oh, my God, stop it.
It's so funny. Like, she's going so slow. Going so slow.
With the shredded tire,
I know. I just like what I would give.
Why can't they just pull in front of her and stop?
What I would give for to get. I don't know. I know cops obviously have body cams.
Look at her trying to swerve away from people with the shredded tire.
Do squad cars have cameras inside? Because I would give anything.
Oh, they have a dash cam.
100%.
Yeah. Well, a dash cam, but I mean, I want to see.
Oh, the cops.
The cops. Like, I want to, because, like, I imagine in a high-speed chase, if you're driving a cop car, or even if you're in the passenger seat, you are locked in, right? Like, you're going 70, 80 miles an hour, not maybe 90 miles an hour. You're swerving between cars on the highway. Like, the adrenaline is pumping. What about an 8-mile-per-hour police chase? Like, are you kind of sitting there just resting your chin,
listening to
on your
Bruce
arm,
Feldman sleep stories
like
on
Little
the
River Little River Band is playing on the radio, and you're just plugging along, just talking about your week.
The funniest part. And we have to assume this person was on drugs or something like that, right? You cannot feasibly be trying to get away with a car going 8 miles an hour.
I mean, why would you say that?
I don't know. I'm just assuming that no one in their right mind could possibly have thought that this was a good idea. Robert, there is I don't know, have you seen the video? I just watched it now.
Not once.
So she's moving at 8 miles an hour. There's a car. There's an Explorer, a Nashville Police Department Explorer, just kind of tailing her for a little bit. Then 2 other Explorers try and triangle her in,
converge on the target,
but she swerves. She in the middle of this triangle. She tries to swerve to get away. Ma'am, you are going 8 miles an hour.
I don't know what's funnier, the idea of cops just bored during a police chase going 8 miles an hour, or maybe it's just the same setting in the cop car where they're like on the radio, like, we're gaining on her, and the adrenaline is still very much there, but it's all happening at 8 miles per hour.
Peyton, I know it wasn't from sports, but you may be the winner. Just hang with us. Remember to stay on hold. We'll see if you have something, Robert, before I go to Nathan.
This is just a classic cat playing with their food type chase. Like, these cops, it's 4 a.m. They're like, buckle up. Like, if it was me doing this, they would have put me in the median. My car would be dented from the wreck that Explorer caused. But because it's this old woman, they're going to let her have her day. She gets to tell everybody in the clink that she took the cops on I wouldn't say a high-speed chase.
Multi-hour police chase.
It was a multi-hour police chase. It was not a high-speed chase. Ron on YouTube says that's what the blunt and energy drink does to you.
She was on that blunt and energy drink combo.
She's the Robert Wall special, huh?
Put her in the wall.
All right, Nathan, it's a tall task to follow that up, but let's see what you got.
I'll do my best here. My oh no is Steelers GM Omar Khan acquiring players this offseason the same way I drafted them in fantasy football. They're all going to be 5 years ago were Pro Bowlers, but they're going to be on IR by week 8. Their season's going to be busted. Aaron Rodgers, Robert Woods, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey. There's 4 or 5 others out there, but that's my oh no.
I would have been a great team in 2021. Nope. Mike Tomlin, you're speaking on behalf of the Steelers or us?
Us.
Oh, okay.
Man, I keep every time.
It was a good submission, Nathan. Peyton just beat you to the punch on that.
And look, Peyton said it's not in sports. I disagree. We've been talking about the best racing movies. Racing is a sport. I think this counts. We keep talking. For some reason, it keeps getting brought up that Robert Woods is a Steeler. And every time, I instantly forget. My brain just removes that. And then somebody says it again, Robert Woods. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
He's their wide receiver, too.
We still need to do the. Gabe Davis has been linked to them for a while. Maybe they've could
got,
bring him in.
Who's the Memphis receiver?
Calvin
Harris. Harris.
No, Calvin Harris is a DJ.
Yeah. Come on down to Steelers practice, everybody. Calvin Harris, number 2 wide receiver.
That's worse than because he tried to correct us. That's worse than me calling face on brand. No,
it's Harris.
His middle name's Harris. I swear.
Oh my goodness! You shoving both of us out of the way.
No, you idiots! You idiots!
I love this. What's that Steelers wide receiver? That's that DJ. Dude, I love this song.
Please come back with some Calvin Harris in the next segment. Congratulations to Peyton. He's going to the UFC fight simply because he made us laugh and we were able to kill 15 minutes with that story.
When I met you in the summer.
Coming up next. It says Chig-to-my... No, that's from yesterday's grid. Whoops.
God, can we do anything
We are
right?
on our game today. Who's going to have a better season? The Tennessee Volunteers or the Indiana Hoosiers? We're going to take a look at both of them, their schedules, and preseason expectations coming up next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Now, see, this would have been better rave music. Fire alarm rave music.
452 yards last year. Calvin Harris.
That wide receiver for the Steelers,
Right.
famously.
Memphis product.
Calvin Harris. Undersized, but has made a nice career for himself in the league. Welcome back to the show. Like I said, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. All right, we have controversy on the show. We have dispute, or as Lucas likes to say, dispute. It's just weird emphasis.
It was like semantics.
No, it's not quite. If the rest of the English-speaking population says a word one way and you say it the other way, then it's probably a you thing.
It's my second language. Give me a break.
Stop.
You say microwave, I say microwave.
If you say that louder into the microphone, ice will come and take you away. Careful. I don't want to take Eric's call. Eric is a zone radio caller legend, but there has to be rules. He's calling to give his oh no.
Just shut up and take the call.
Oh no is supposed to be at 10:45. I don't want to do it.
Robert, let's hear it.
Yeah, come on. Eric, you're on with us. Eric, I'd love to hear your oh no.
Eric, what are we doing? You're an hour late.
Well, no, this is not actually. Oh no, but I was going to give you the specific details of that story that you were talking about.
The car chase.
It started, yeah, at 3 a.m. and it lasted for 4.5 hours from 3 a.m. and it ended at 7:30. Apparently, the story was that the woman, I don't know if she was drunk and asleep behind the wheel, got passed out, or she woke up. But anyway, she saw the police officers approaching her car, the state troopers, and she took off. The chase started at first at 50 miles an hour, and she was all over Nashville. She'd been going down Murfreesboro Road. She was on I-24 in Hardin Place. She was in East Nashville, and she finally got stopped I-24 West around by the parkway. But the thing is, they put out spike strips, so her tires were going bald, but they were smoking while she was driving. Started out 50 miles an hour, ended about 8 miles an hour, and she finally got up against the guardrail, I-24 West by Briley Parkway, and she couldn't get out on the driver's side, so she got on the other side. I don't know her name, but she was a heavy-set woman. So this was a 4.5-hour chase from 3 a.m. to 7:30, and it went from 50 miles an hour to about 80 miles an hour. So that specifically is the story.
Eric, were you locked in? I mean, you
You
have
just
the
gave
whole story.
us. I could see the road map that you just described.
Were you glued to the television at 3 a.m.?
Well, no, not at 3 a.m. I got up and this was later on during the morning, but they were just talking about the story a little while ago, how it first started to then. So I was asleep at 3 a.m., but they said apparently that's when it started. It was 3 o'clock in the morning and ended about 7:30. So it was a 4.5-hour chase.
Man.
And again, the woman was either passed out, I don't know, from drinking or sleep or whatever, but she looked up and saw state troopers and took off.
Insane.
The more we hear about it, the more it does sound like the work of Chunky Junkie.
It sounded like he was describing my. Appreciate the call, Eric. We always put you on around here.
Wait. Let him give his sign off.
Oh yeah, sign us off, Eric. Hey, Eric. We'll talk again soon.
For God's sakes.
I don't think Eric knows.
Does he know that he does that every time?
Yeah, I don't think he's doing a thing. I think it's just something he says. It's like, thanks. We'll talk again soon.
It sounded like Eric was describing my college dating life. It was a heavyset woman. I don't know her name, but I don't know if she was asleep or drinking. But
You know what? Joke's on me. We should always take Eric's call, and that's why.
Yep.
Chunky Junkie. At it again.
Back at it again. I never actually heard the Chunky Junkie story. Isn't it on YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
It is.
I need to go
It is
check
an
that out.
exceptional story.
How's he doing, by the way?
Insane.
Have you guys talked to him since he had surgery?
I, as a good friend, texted him on his birthday, which I imagine you did not.
I posted.
Yeah, you put it on the Instagram story. Way less personal.
Yeah. But
He likes it, though.
as far as I know, he's doing well. Recovery. I know the procedure went well, and he's just kicking it. I don't know when he'll be back on the air.
He is considered day to day.
Okay.
So we'll get another injury report at the end of the day, and we'll see his viability for Wednesday. But
I
would
didn't
imagine
realize his knee was that bad.
that video of him walking across that bridge and the doctor going, my speed, not yours. And he puts his first down and goes, excellent. Slade takes another step, and the doctor goes, excellent again. I cried real tears. That doctor, I want to hurt my leg just so that doctor can coach me like that. I want him to be back here while I'm working on this board. I get a good fade in, and he's like, excellent. Play that audio. Excellent again. I need that kind of encouragement in my life. I hope Slay.
Yeah, you're too busy playing music, sleep story music for Bruce Feldman while he's on the radio show when you're trying to edit it under Bruce Feldman's voice.
He shouldn't have been able to hear that. He should have been listening to you guys. He needs to stay focused on the interview.
He literally said, he texted me and said, "What is this choir music in the background?"
Just trying to help you with your next endeavor.
All right. So, Tennessee football in 2025, the Vols specifically, we understand that this could be a year where they just have, where they take their lumps, right? And taking their lumps for Tennessee in 2025 could be 8 wins, it could be 9 wins, it could be 7 wins. 6 would be a legit disappointment no matter where the bar is set. This year, 7 would probably be a disappointment. Yep. Vegas has them at what, 8.5?
8.5.
8.5, which feels fair. Is there an SEC team that's got an over-under of more than 9 wins? I don't think there is.
If there is, it would probably be Texas. But
even
Texas
does. I mean, given their schedule, we talked about this with Pate, their schedule is one of the most difficult in college football this year. So
it's funny, actually, I can't access Texas's over-under on wins on FanDuel Sportsbook.
I've got CBS Sports Line. I can check that out here in just a second. But my point with this is I saw the EA college football top 25, and Indiana was ranked higher than Tennessee was. And, not because I have any large investment in Indiana football famously, but I do think it's an interesting discussion. Who is going to be ranked higher in the preseason poll, and who could potentially have a better season between Indiana football and Tennessee? Now, I looked at Indiana's schedule this year, and it is terrible. Like, as far as the strength of schedule goes, it's not as bad as their 2024.
It's significantly tougher.
It's not, but it pales in comparison to even a light SEC schedule. You would agree? This is the schedule, all right? So they're home for Old Dominion and Kennesaw State and Indiana State and Illinois. Then they are at Iowa, at Oregon, home for Michigan State, at UCLA.
Home against UCLA.
Home against UCLA, at Maryland, at Penn State, which is their most difficult game, home for Wisconsin, at Purdue.
It's much, much, much more difficult than it was last season. Going to Penn State and to Oregon in the same season is tougher than any.
They were at Ohio State last year, and that was the big one.
Right. Going to Penn State and going to Oregon. In terms of opponent, those are 2 tougher opponents on the road than any 2 opponents Tennessee has. Now, Tennessee goes to Bama and goes to Florida. Those are 2, you could argue, tougher places to play, but the argument is there. I think both Oregon and Penn State are better football teams than Florida. So I think those 2 road trips are more difficult than Tennessee's 2 big road trips of the year. Illinois is no slouch this year, man. They are an ascending program in the Big Ten. They won 10 games last year under Brett Bielema.
But you're not going to sit there and argue that Tennessee's schedule in the SEC, even though it's maneuverable, is not significantly stronger just by nature of playing in the SEC than Indiana.
It's stronger because you play Georgia and at Alabama and at Florida, like I mentioned. And the other home games, you're looking at Oklahoma and Arkansas. But maybe I'm crazy for saying this. I don't think the gap is all that big. Like, again, going to Oregon and going to Penn State.
No, for sure. That brings up the level of, it's not just Ohio State and Michigan anymore.
Yeah. Hosting a Michigan State team that wants to take another step with Aiden Childs as their quarterback, and hosting an Illinois team that's looking to continue on its ascendancy. That's I'm not going to call it a murderer's row, but compared to what Indiana faced last year,
it was an incredibly soft schedule. That was the knock against them the entire time. It was as good a case as any to keep them out of the playoff, even though they were in the playoff.
Yeah.
Brandon on YouTube has found the over-under for Texas 9.5 as well.
Okay.
So there's not an SEC team that has a double-digit over-under as far as the win total this year, which I think is fair.
Yeah. The Indiana-Tennessee thing is fascinating because when we're talking about preseason ranking, preseason top 25, the AP, we're talking about writers, right? College football reporters across the country. What do most college football, people that cover college football, most of them think when they think about Tennessee football in 2025? Nico's gone. Okay, Indiana football, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Mendoza's the quarterback. and
Fernando
he's
Mendoza.
Better than what they had last year. And what they had last year was a guy in Curtis Rourke who, Rourke didn't end up getting drafted. He's on a roster somewhere.
He might have been a 7th-round pick.
If he was late.
Curtis Rourke, he ended up being picked 7th by the Niners. He was picked 227. So the thing is with Mendoza, he is a more known commodity than anybody Tennessee has in the quarterback room.
Yep.
Like, is there a scenario where Joey Aguilar could be better? Sure, there's a scenario, but Fernando Mendoza is absolutely a more known commodity at the quarterback position. There were SEC schools that wanted Fernando Mendoza out of Cal. I know Georgia wanted Fernando Mendoza, but there was no clear path to starting. That seems like it's going to be Gunnar Stockton's team. Whereas at IU, obviously, you're handed the keys. Now, the difference in the two, obviously, is the talent profile of both programs. There's a pretty big gap in terms of just the base talent level as far as recruiting is concerned, where Tennessee is a lot higher than Indiana. But if I had to say today, I would expect Indiana to be ranked higher than Tennessee.
I think they're going
in
to
the
be.
preseason AP poll. Sure. I mean, Tennessee, you're probably talking about that 22 kind of range.
And the preseason poll means
Nothing.
the least of any of the polls that will be put out because it is sight unseen. All right, we're just kind of guesstimating where all of these programs are going to fall. Is there a world in which Tennessee is not ranked in the preseason poll?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, there is a world, but I
would
expect
probably
them to be
offensive to a lot of Vols fans.
Sure.
You say that pretty casually, and I'm assuming that the vast majority of your fan base would be pissed.
Sure. And then you can, you can blow out Syracuse in week 1 and crack the top 25, right?
Sure.
Like, again, it's just things that don't really matter. I know it's talked
arbitrary,
about.
but it is an interesting case study. I think it's just good to put those two things in comparison to actually trying to figure out, all right, what's realistic for Tennessee this year? Indiana might be a flash in the pan. It may well be. They may not have near as much success for the rest of time as they did this past season. It was a crazy thing that happened. I don't know if you could recreate that in a million other instances. They might, and it might be sustainable. I have no idea what's going to happen in Bloomington this year.
The question that Indiana has to answer, that Frank Signetti has to answer is, did he have a team last year or does he have a program, right? Whereas with Tennessee, we feel good about Josh Heupel having a program at Tennessee. Multiple 10-win seasons, 2 and 3 years specifically, and turning a program around, I think qualifies as having a program that is on very stable ground.
That's the third name you've gotten wrong today.
What did I say?
Frank Signetti, the former offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Wow. Kurt Signetti.
Are you okay?
Are they related?
Are you just checked out more than usual?
I'm in Pensacola.
It's Kurt Signetti.
Are they they are related. They're brothers.
That makes sense.
It's his damn brother. So anyway.
Calvin Harris. So the outlook the Big Ten is going to have some formidable teams, right? It's not just Oregon, who actually won the conference last year. I assume most college football fans would know that sight unseen, but I had forgotten that Oregon won the Big Ten last year because Ohio State went on to win the championship, even though Ohio State was embattled basically the whole way through. You have Penn State, who there's a world in which Penn State could be the preseason number 1. I think it would be pretty crazy. But
I'll be surprised if it's not Texas, but that is a plausible scenario.
But if you had to pick a Big Ten team to be ranked number 1, it would be Penn State with the return of Drew Aller and everything else that they're bringing back in 2025, especially when it feels like James Franklin has finally turned this corner to where he should be, where maybe they expected him to get sooner, but now he does feel like he's in a place where he should be regularly competing, not just for the playoff, but for a national championship.
This is the year for James Franklin. It is. They finally did the thing. They got a receiver that other people wanted in Trebor Pena out of Syracuse, the transfer, the guy that had Fran Brown talking about, $1.5 million. That's the kid at Ohio State. I'm not giving anybody $1.5 million. That kid ends up going to Penn State. I don't know off the top of my head what he got, but he was an all-ACC wide receiver last year, projects to be wide receiver 1 at Penn State. And it's just a good talent roster with a quarterback in Drew Aller that is one of the more recognizable names at the quarterback position in the country. He made 2 of the best coordinator hires in the country, including Jim Knowles going over from Ohio State to Penn State to coordinate that defense. Everything feels like it is building up to this moment for James Franklin and Penn State. And Indiana's got to go over there late season in November. Man, this schedule.
No, that's a scheduled loss. I mean, if you had to pick a scheduled loss this year for them, it's at Penn State for sure. I would also probably say at Oregon, if for no other reason, like they may be even more evenly matched than we're giving Indiana credit for. We'll see what they actually look like by the time they get to that game, because they'll play Illinois and Iowa on the road before they go to Eugene. But just you saw the rate of teams, Big Ten teams losing who traveled east to west and west to east. Like, it's just the difficulty of that travel was a thing. It was quantifiable last year. It was really, really hard to do. Ohio State at Oregon gave them the best run for their money in the regular season, but still came up short. And I know that was a whole thing with Kyle McCord and the way that game, not Kyle McCord. I'm blanking on the Ohio State quarterback's name.
Kyle McCord, Ohio State's quarterback last year? Will Howard?
Last year. Yeah, Will Howard. Sorry, I got them mixed up. The former Ohio State quarterback, Kyle McCord. Anyway, Will Howard and the way that he slid to end the game and time expired, the whole thing. They were as in it as any Big Ten team going to the West Coast last year. But if you had to, so if you looked at Tennessee's schedule, how many losses would you see?
Right now,
give us the whole schedule top to bottom.
I look up and down. Syracuse is a very winnable game in Atlanta. You should expect to win that game. ETSU obviously is a win.
And they're going to have a home field advantage in Atlanta.
Sure. Georgia, there's no evidence to sit here and say that, put that down as a win. So if we're talking about those games that you look at and the first thing that comes to mind is L, I look at Georgia. I look at Bama at home. Oklahoma at home is going to be so interesting. Oklahoma is this team where there's this excitement, but also this like nervousness and pressure on Brent Venables. Excitement because John Mateer is one of the most high-profile transfer quarterback acquisitions in the country. The Washington State QB.
Last year, though, too.
They did, and well, no, they didn't last year. Last year they were riding with their 5-star Jackson Arnold.
What I'm saying is they had a highly touted quarterback prospect.
They did, yes, but we hadn't seen him yet, and we've seen John Mateer play power conference level football. Well, I guess not technically with Washington State last year, but you get the point. So the hopes are high for Oklahoma this year. Brent Venables signed an extension not that long ago, but still, if they kind of flounder at that 6 to 7 range,
well, we don't know enough about Oklahoma yet, so let's just call it a coin flip and not a scheduled loss. How many losses do you definitively see on Tennessee's schedule? Because I've got 3 on Indiana's.
Georgia, I'm going to go ahead and say Alabama. And I guess Florida and Tennessee, it's going to have to be believe it when I see it.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Tennessee hasn't won in Gainesville in like over 2 decades. So, yeah, I will go with those 3, but there's some variance there that I'm really curious about. Bama's so much more of a talented roster than Tennessee. Ty Simpson's the starting quarterback. We'll see how that goes in year 2 with Kalen DeBoer. And Florida, same as Oklahoma. Like, there's excitement and expectation, especially about the quarterback position, but also if there are pitfalls, like patience will run out for that head coach. And you get them late in the year, which is also just weird. Playing Florida on November 22nd does not seem right.
We put it to a poll at Buck Rising on Twitter is where you can vote on the polls. Who wins more games in 2025, Indiana and Tennessee? When I last looked before the show started, Tennessee was running away with it, but I think that's just because of how heavily skewed the audience is. And I think, Indiana's playing a softer schedule, even if it is a more difficult schedule. I just think it's an interesting case study for 2 programs that we're obviously going to follow Tennessee all year long, but, it's worth keeping a side eye on Indiana for entertainment purposes only, if nothing else. All right. Let us get into the most interesting thing in every NFL division. We've been doing that over the course of the last couple of weeks on the show as we get closer and closer to training camp. It's officially July, by the way, which means that training camp is this month. We're looking forward to being back out there. Are you going with us to training camp?
That's the only reason you guys were allowed to be there, was if I was there to make sure you guys stayed in line, didn't start any fights, didn't push any kids down.
I didn't start any fights last night.
It was a personal request of Burke Nihill, I believe.
He goes?
Yes, yeah. That's what the dirt was in exchange for. In exchange for dirt on you, he will provide me with more of that rich Titans dirt.
You tried to eat it, and I'm pretty sure you had some kind of
literal dirt, to be clear. Not like gossip or information.
Correct.
They gave him a jar of dirt.
Yes, a jar of dirt.
A jar of dirt that we're pretty sure had asbestos in it.
It was the asbestos I have.
All right, you already got away with one earlier. You're done.
Got away with it. That was killer. That was reach up and grab the bell.
Yeah, and now you're just throwing shots up. Now you're Russell Westbrook.
J.R. Smith, baby. I just shoot.
No,
you shoot it.
Look, the clock's running out. Look at the score.
Yeah, Lucas is LeBron James pointing at the basket. What are you doing?
It was the best asbestos I've ever had.
Yeah, it only took you 2 tries to get that right. AFC East is next. Shut up.
You know, I thought it was impossible for Hattie B's Hot Chicken to get any better, for their menu to be any more mouthwatering. And then they added the Southern salad. That's right. Hattie B's is doing salad. You pick whatever kind of chicken you want, grilled, fried, whatever spice level. For me, it's the hot. That's the sweet spot. But whatever works for you, your favorite tender bites, plus sweet corn, black-eyed pea succotash, cornbread croutons, a game changer. It's delicious. It is uniquely Hattie B's. You can, of course, order in store or online at HattieB.com. If you download the Hattie B's app today, you get a free dessert literally by just downloading the app. You can top it off with some banana pudding or peach cobbler. Of course, Hattie B's does the best hot chicken in the entire world. Download the Hattie B's app today to skip the line. You can also bring the heat to your event, party, wedding, corporate function. Let Hattie be your guest of honor. HattieB.com.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. That Southern salad ad you did, it's got me thinking about Hattie B's. Always thinking about Hattie B's, but I love a good salad.
Cornbread croutons.
That's the kicker. Again, I asked for more health-conscious options. They gave me grilled tenders and greens, and now we've got salad. So we're very excited about that. The Southern salad at Hattie B's, like Lucas just told you about, you can get yours at any one of their Middle Tennessee locations. AFC East. Is this the most boring division in football this year? Just because we are assuming that the Bills are going to run away with it because the Jets are the Jets and Justin Fields doesn't scare anybody right now. Maybe he will. I don't know. You are looking at Miami, whose biggest personnel acquisition this offseason, maybe not biggest, but most talked about, has been 33-year-old Darren Waller, who they just traded for, bringing him out of retirement and acquiring his rights from the New York Giants.
Yeah, Patriots are still far away.
There are people who are doing way too much with this Mike Vrabel effect bump that they're assuming the Patriots are going to get. But there are smart football people out there talking about the Patriots as playoff team, which is insane because they spent a lot of money. They did the Titans thing that the Titans botched last year. They're hoping that building around Drake May proves to be bear more fruit than building around Will Levis did in 2024, but the Patriots still are one of the worst rosters in football. I don't know how anybody with a good conscience can look at that and be like, oh yeah, Mike Vrabel's there now. They'll be a playoff team.
Doesn't feel like there's a more runaway favorite in any division than Buffalo in the AFC
really
East.
doesn't.
Yeah, even the Chiefs,
Chargers could push them. They're an 11 team last year.
Is Kansas City probably going to win the AFC West? Yeah, probably. But the Chargers could push them, and the Broncos could push them if there's a year 2 leap with Bo Nix. It is feasible. So, yeah, it's AFC East feels like the most boring division.
So what's the most interesting storyline in the AFC East then, if we want to go around the room and pick one? Because to me, it's Justin Fields. Aaron Glenn and Justin Fields in New York. The Jets are not a bad roster. I don't look at the Jets and be like, the way that I do with the Patriots or the Titans or any one of these 2024 bottom feeders that are trying to claw out of the basement of their division. It's just Aaron Rodgers was bad last year or was not good enough to help them. Their offensive line was bad last year, and they've tried to take measures to address that. And their defense, after they fired Robert Saleh in season, it fell off a cliff. It's not a bad defensive roster. They just looked like they weren't coordinated, to be completely honest with you. So I don't know if the Jets aren't the most intriguing here, because I think I've been calling the Dolphins frauds basically the entire Mike McDaniel tenure down there. I don't think the Dolphins are relevant at all this year in the potential playoff picture that we may be seeing in late November and early December as things start to take shape. Really, Buffalo is the best team by a mile in that division, though there's still some questions about the talent around Josh Allen. Why isn't it, and we've talked about the Patriots plenty, why isn't it the Jets that are the most interesting?
I'm definitely intrigued. Louis Riddick tweeted an hour ago.
It's highly questionable with Le Batard and his dad. See, I'm very intrigued.
Louis Riddick, I miss highly questionable.
Such a good show.
Tweeted an hour ago, the Dolphins are the very definition of uncertainty going into 2025. Have zero idea what this team will look like, play like, come together like, chemistry-wise. Zero. Fascinating to me. Is there a coach under more pressure in the division than Mike McDaniel? Probably not.
No.
Right?
No. You
got Vrabel and Aaron Glenn in their first year.
McDermott is under way more pressure. If he doesn't finally break through this Chiefs wall, they're gonna find an offensive-minded head coach to do whatever they think needs to be done with Josh Allen.
Who's more likely to be fired after this season?
I don't really know much about Stephen Ross and the Dolphins owner and how he goes about it, but I might argue McDermott. It would be crazy. I think it would be terrible. Yeah. I think he's a really good coach. But
yeah, it's a tough conversation because Mike McDaniel, what does he have to prove? Prove that you're a team that can
go on the road and beat teams with winning records.
Can do something in the playoffs.
Isn't going to look like a Ferrari spinning out in the snow when you go to KC in the playoffs.
Right. And then Buffalo, it is prove you can win a Super Bowl, not prove you're a contender. We know you're a contender.
Yeah, but that's the greater pressure.
It is the greater pressure. but what's the shorter path to losing your job?
I think it's just slamming your head against this Patrick Mahomes wall the way that they have done year in and year out. Even I would argue that Allen is the higher upside quarterback between the two of them. He's definitely more. Patrick Mahomes is obviously gifted, and Patrick Mahomes is more refined as far as what it is that Andy Reid has gotten him to be able to do and continues to elevate his game. But Josh Allen's the more talented player. And at some point, what is it, the Pagula family that owns the Buffalo Bills? They're probably going to look around and have this moment of, all right, is this defensive-minded head coach who has saved our ass time in and time out, is there somebody who can get more out of Josh Allen? And I wouldn't have that conversation because I think it's insane. But NFL owners do insane things all the time. That is an interesting question, though, that you ask. Who's more likely to lose their job at the end of the season? I think it might be McDermott.
Yeah, then it comes down to ownership, right? Because there aren't many bolder moves to pull in sports, right? Firing the coach that has you on the cusp of a championship and firing him because he hasn't done the thing that only one team does at the end of every season. Mm-hmm. We've just talked about it with the New York Knicks, and they've kind of fallen flat. Have they hired anybody?
No, they still don't have a coach.
They still don't have a coach. They didn't seem to have a plan.
Thank God, by the way. I need something to talk about on Fox for the next 3 days.
I mean, we've seen it. We've mentioned the college football example of Georgia, and that just paying off massively for that program.
Mark Richt to Kirby.
Yeah. Is there an example in the NFL of a team that was right there on the doorstep that actually made the change because you did everything but win the Super Bowl? What's the last example of that in the NFL? Like, I'm not going to say people love in this conversation to point out Andy Reid in Philly, but Andy Reid won 4 games in his last year as the head coach of the Eagles. Like, they had a big drop-off.
Yeah, they were also starting Kevin Cobb at quarterback towards the end and stuff like that.
So Andy Reid's not the example.
Even though Jim Harbaugh with the 49ers, like, they made it to a Super Bowl but did not win it.
Yeah, but that was more because of his personality. That was because he had gotten into an argument with ownership. If I remember the reporting correctly around that, like he
which you're willing to deal with if he's winning Super Bowl.
Right. Like, it's the closest thing to it. I mean, 2 years before he was fired,
he won everything but the Super Bowl, though.
2 years before he was fired, they got to the NFC Championship game, and they went 8-8 in 2014. And yeah, there was butting of heads, clashes of personality, but there's not I can't think of in the modern age a better example right now.
Well, what if it's here? What if it's Malarkey and Vrabel? They weren't on the doorstep, really, but they had gotten into the picture, and then they hired Mike. 2 years later, they were in the AFC Championship.
Mike is nowhere close. Like, Mike, it's not even remotely in the discussion.
What's a better example than that? Because it's not Jim Harbaugh and Chip Kelly.
Harbaugh is a much better example. Vrabel won 6 games in his last year.
It's not about his last year. It's about the time that he took over. Isn't that the exercise that you're asking about?
No, I'm talking about a coach getting fired while on the doorstep of a championship because he hasn't won the championship.
Okay, I see.
Which is what the Knicks did with Tom Thibodeau, which is what Georgia did with Mark Richt.
I thought you were talking about somebody. No, I thought you were talking about somebody who came in and took the program to the next step, even though the previous coach was successful.
Like, if the Bills...
Because Malarkey was successful, and then Vrabel elevated it, and then fell off.
Let's say the Bills get to another AFC Championship, lose to the Chiefs, and Sean McDermott's fired. He is fired because he didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
It's hard for me to come up with another really good example of that.
So Harbaugh would be the better example. But again, I don't think that's because he lost...
Right, there were a lot of other factors,
the Super Bowl. Sure. There were a lot of different things going on there that were very well reported on, and I think he even popped off publicly about it a couple of times.
But it just doesn't happen. Doesn't really happen that often.
There's just so many different things. I think football, this is and maybe college football versus pro. What's an easier thing to turn around, a college football program or an NFL program?
I mean, college football program, it used to be like 4 years before it was even the coach's quote-unquote team.
And now it's year over year.
And that all gets accelerated with the transfer portal.
Turning it around?
Somebody brought up Tony Dungy and the Bucs.
Yeah, and the standard for turning it around is different for every program as well.
I think John Fox is also worth mentioning, where he was the coach of the Denver team.
And Kubiak won.
They couldn't win the Super Bowl, and then he got fired, goes to the Bears.
Well, that's fresh in your mind because you were just watching 2012 Super Bowl run Ravens highlights.
But if we were saying just like turn around.
What a bad interception by Peyton, by the way, in that game.
Tony Dungy, is the FNN Bank chat puts
Tom
out there.
Pelissero is reporting that 3 Indianapolis Colts defensive backs have been suspended for gambling.
And this just happened like 2 off seasons ago.
What's that?
Colts players being suspended for gambling. Like, didn't this just happen? That's the whole reason Isaiah Rodgers.
Robert, that's the joke. When he's not listening to me and he repeats the same thing that I've said immediately after.
And vice versa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh,
neither
for sure.
one of you guys listen to each other.
For sure.
But to answer your question.
It's amazing that we can get through 3 hours a day not paying a single shred of attention to what the other one says.
I think it's easier to turn around a college program, though. Look, I mean, Matt Rule, who was a terrible coach in the NFL, was able to turn around Rutgers.
Oh, my God, look at Indiana and Vanderbilt.
If you're one of those, especially if you're a school with resources and just the right guy to do it.
But even if you're not, like Vandy has resources more than they've had in recent memory, but it's not like they're pouring money hand over fist into the football program. They just happen to hit on a quarterback and an OC.
Real quick, the chat's alleging Tony Dungy for the coach that you guys were talking about.
Yeah. I didn't realize. Were you not on the show when that happened? The Isaiah Rodgers thing?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, that makes sense. Last call I didn't realize how over we going. Last call. No, it's only noon. We have a full hour to go. TJ Watt may be traded with all the other Pittsburgh Steelers weirdness. We'll talk about that story coming up next.
It is 12:03. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. 33-year-old tight end Darren Waller is coming out of retirement and joining the Miami Dolphins on a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. The Giants get a 2026 sixth-round pick from Miami. The Giants trade the Dolphins a conditional 2027 seventh-round pick. This, of course, comes the day after the Dolphins made a blockbuster trade with the Steelers, sending Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith up to Pittsburgh in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick. That included a pick swap as well. But a new deal has not been struck with star pass rusher T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh, still awaiting his new contract. Adam Schefter reported Monday that multiple teams are mulling trade offers for the 30-year-old who did not participate in mandatory minicamp. Legal tampering is underway in the NBA. The Memphis Grizzlies are signing all-star Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 5-year, $240 million maximum renegotiation and extension. Also, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is now the richest player in terms of annual salary in NBA history, signing a 4-year, $285 million Supermax contract extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder after winning league MVP and NBA Finals MVP. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
One of the most talked about off seasons of any NFL football team has been the Pittsburgh Steelers, and not just because of yesterday's news, adding Aaron Rodgers, contract dispute with T.J. Watt. All of these things are going to make them one of the more interesting teams to follow along or pay attention to in 2025. But that last part of it, the contract negotiation or lack of progress on a contract negotiation with one of the best pass rushers in football, T.J. Watt may be available for the right price, it seems, especially if you're going to pay Jalen Ramsey basically $27 million to come in and fortify your secondary. We're going to hear from Adam Schefter here in just a second, but Bert, we started to get a few of these last night on Primetime, people asking about the idea of the Titans trading for J.J. Watt, and Lucas brought up TJ.
Brandon in the FNM Bank chat has accused us of being hungover.
We're just really bad
The
today.
sloppy nature of the show today, it's a fair accusation.
Did you see how quick he was? He's messed up how many names today? And the first, I got one letter wrong, and he came flying down from the rafters.
He's like when you drop a piece of food on the ground, and the dogs like suck it up before you can even. TJ. Like one of those
my God. I don't even think I gotten Watt out of my mouth. With the phrasing. I caught myself. That would have been a bad clip. I had not even finished the word Watt before Lucas just screamed, TJ.
So Schefter says teams are mulling potential trade offers because there doesn't seem to be any movement here. We have Schefter on this, right? Talking about the lack of movement on a contract extension.
Everybody just has assumed, rightfully, that the two sides will figure it out. But I don't think they're very close right now, and I don't think that he's particularly pleased. Now, it could change just like that, and they could figure out a way to get it done. But you know what? They just gave Jonnu Smith more money. They just gave Jalen Ramsey more money. They haven't given T.J. Watt more money. And you just wonder how that's going to play out here in the coming weeks. Again, he's such a part of the team, you cannot imagine him not being there. Yes. But you would think that this situation would be settled by now, and it's not.
Yeah, I agree, Schefter. And I would like to let everybody know that if you were to go back and watch the tape, I would ask on a very regular basis, hey, if everything's good, why is TJ not there? You know, if everything's just going to be A-OK, why does he feel obligated to take a $170,000 fine of missing mandatory minicamp? If everything was okay, you would think a guy who's a staple and a pillar of the team would have been there. I'm not saying there's any issues, but I've just asked the question on a regular basis because, like, everybody else is saying they think a deal's going to get done. I think TJ not going is him saying, is it? I don't know if a deal's going to get done.
All right. That's Pat McAfee and Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee Show. Is Adam Schefter nursing a child while speaking in a car via a walkie-talkie?
It does sound like a walkie-talkie.
Is my mind playing tricks on me?
Everybody just has assumed, rightfully, that the two sides will figure it out. But I don't think they're very close right now, and I don't think that he's particularly pleased. Now, it could change just like that, and they could figure out a way to get it done. But you know what? They just gave Jonnu Smith more money.
It's really well placed.
Is it a very silent or very quiet audio file that you have saved and you're just plugging it in, or are you doing that organically?
Don't worry about it.
While we're recording, I will throw the mic over Chonder and I will go,
Good way for him to entertain himself.
I forget that I do it half the time.
Yeah. It's just
We
there.
get 2 hours into the show, and anyway.
So, everything about the Pittsburgh Steelers this year has been all in. Oh, here we go. They're all in.
Except for the best player on the roster.
The best player on the team is nowhere close to a deal. You can't be all in if you're Pittsburgh.
That's why
if T.J. Watt's not along for the ride. You can't.
It doesn't make any sense to me what they're doing. And, let's get the easy part out of the way. Titans are not trading for T.J. Watt. I can't envision a world in which that exists.
Oh, what I would give for news to break. Tomorrow.
How would that be great? Oh, no, not tomorrow.
Because then we
don't want to actually work tomorrow. We're bringing Fitzy on here to talk about the hot dog eating contest tomorrow. I don't want to work tomorrow.
Could do another moment of stupidity when Buck said, nobody's going to make Justin Fields their starter.
Breaking news!
Did I do that?
Yes.
No, I don't
You were
remember
so
that.
adamant. They're like, how stupid to think any team is just going to make Justin Fields the starting quarterback.
That does sound like something.
Immediately the Jets. $40 million. Here you go.
That's not real starting quarterback money, though. Aaron Rodgers making 14.
Who's the starting quarterback of the New York Jets?
Shut up. Listen to how good this was. We need to make another one of these.
And now we pause for a moment of stupidity on the Buck Rising Show.
Yes.
So Fields is worried the Steelers won't commit to him as the starting quarterback. I mean, that's a completely reasonable fear. What has Justin Fields done to earn? All right, you're our starting quarterback, bud. I don't think there's a team out there that's going to tell Justin Fields we're signing you to be our definitive starting quarterback.
I think you're so wrong about that.
The Jets have a new quarterback. It is Justin Fields.
This has been a moment of stupidity on the Buck Rising Show.
Yes.
That's really good.
Oh, God, I want nothing more than T.J. Watt to be a
tomorrow,
Seahawk.
like within the next 20 minutes, that would be ideal.
God, we have more of these. Let me see what the other ones are.
What else you got? We got nothing else to do. Lucas wanted to talk about T.J. Watt to the Titans. I don't want to do that. Let's just play these.
And now we pause for a moment of stupidity on the Buck Rising Show.
Yes.
Thinking, when I say that, what comes to your mind immediately? Word association. Do you have a position, one specifically, that pops into your head? Anybody in the room?
Writ large, quarterback.
Writ large. We're overthinking the quarterback position.
Maybe not necessarily this year, but that is the position that is overthunk the most. We have Kyle Shanahan on overthunk. I prefer overthunk. This has been a moment of stupidity on the Buck.
That one sucked.
Lucas isn't as bold with it. He's not willing to just get out there and say the first thing that's on his mind. What do you got?
This one should be a good one.
And now we pause for a moment of stupidity on the Buck Rising Show.
Be good. Yes. So my final four is pretty much chalk. It's Duke, Houston, Florida, but I have Louisville. In the final four.
This is going to be 5 straight years. Creighton has won at least one NCAA tournament game. Greg McDermott, his offense executed very well today.
This has been a moment of stupidity on the Buck Rising Show.
If that was better produced, you would know that Creighton beat Louisville in the first round.
That is tough, though. That's March Madness. Crazy things happen.
I still feel that way about Justin Fields. I don't get that.
Well, no, I agree with you. What has Justin Fields done to? Sure, but then for you to take it a step further, say what team is gonna? It's the NFL. Happens all the time. Quarterbacks are given the keys. They're given starting opportunities.
I'm looking at Will Levis
without necessarily earning a starting opportunity. Okay, but what happened here? Will Levis was given the starting job before proving
he did not earn that opportunity.
That's what I'm saying. It happens all the time. So the opinion of he doesn't deserve that yet was fair. The opinion of nobody's going to do that was very stupid.
I always forget about the Jets. Anyway, that concludes our T.J. Watt to the Titans trade discussion.
Yeah, not happening.
Yeah, thanks.
Steelers need to get this done.
I mean,
come on, no, they don't. It's all right. Let them live in this dysfunction.
You have the best offense in football. What do you care?
The Steelers had beaten us before last year for 8 times in a row. I don't care.
Is that real?
Yes. That we did not beat them in a regular.
Before last year, they'd won 8 straight games against Lamar?
Yes. Well, Lamar didn't play for all those games.
Right,
Some years
because
it was
you
Tyler
had
Huntley.
Snoop Huntley running around out there.
Sometimes it was RG3, dating back to COVID. So I do not care. I want to rub their nose in it like a little dog that pooed on the floor. I would like them to be in misery, in hell, for the next 10 years. Then they can poke their little noggin out.
I could dream about TJ Watt in this pass rush, though.
Here?
I could just dream about it. Even if it's not going to happen.
Okay.
I could just pretend it is.
Seems like a weird thing to dream about. You got nothing else going on in your life? You got to dream about TJ Watt on the next Femi Oladejo?
Yeah, I'll just pretend the Titans are going to have an elite pass rusher in 2025.
Well, that'd be the closest thing that they could get to this year. All right. Speaking of the Titans, last year, it felt like gaslighting. What the Titans collectively did and how much people around them, including some of us, bought in to what they were selling in 2024. Titans gaslit their fan base last season. How much optimism, real or unwarranted, did you have last season, before last season began, before the meltdown in Chicago, versus where you're at this season? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in there. All right, so at what point did the tide turn on the 2024 Titan season? Because for the longest, people like us were looking at their win total of 6.5 and be like, oh, that seems silly.
Smash it, baby.
Hammer it. Like we know anything about gambling. We were getting through training camp and we saw the issues with Calvin Ridley and Will Levis on deep connections specifically, but we said, they'll figure it out, right? Hell, you were halfway through the Bears game and you were feeling pretty good about holding a lead on the road in Chicago against a defense that's quality and a number 1 overall pick who did not look good. Your defense was making, Caleb Williams was probably making Caleb Williams not look great, and the Bears' offensive line was not helping him. But the Titans in week 1 went on the road, and we're looking like, okay, it's a little clunky. It has some work to do, but this thing it's workable. That was the feeling until the second half turned, and a punt gets blocked, and Will Levis gives away the game to Tyreek Stevenson, who returns an interception for a touchdown. But even then, that was a gut punch. That's as bad a way to lose a game as you could probably find anywhere in the NFL last year. But even then, you weren't done with the season after week 1. You were just like, whoa.
Like, when did the season feel lost?
Green Bay.
Green Bay does feel like a big pivot point.
Honestly, I could argue week 2 against the Jets when he did the exact same thing.
But you also went into the bye week at 1-3, and no season is lost at 1-3. For me, really, I mean, you're not feeling great after losing to Indianapolis at home in a game that you probably should have won. But in Buffalo, just getting thumped in Buffalo.
But they weren't.
Like that 2-week stretch. Well, they were in the second half. I get what you're saying. They were able to move the ball.
They were holding Josh Allen down, and then Josh Allen went crazy.
They had a 10-0 lead. But it's that 2-week stretch of Buffalo and Detroit where you just got rocked by the Lions, even though, same thing, you were able to move the ball. Special teams was the vice. And at that point, you're sitting at 1-6, and you're like, okay, this season kind of just is what it is.
It was over in October. It was over week 3 when Malik Willis came in here and ran all over you. And it wasn't even that he ran all over you. And they did run all over the Titans in that game. But he threw like a dot. I can't remember the receiver. Was it Romeo Doubs that came down with it? I don't know. It was a pass that Malik Willis probably could have completed to what was the wide receiver that dropped the ball for a touchdown in Kansas City on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football when his first start, Malik.
Chris
Conley. It was a. I've seen Malik throw a ball like that before. I've just seen Chris Conley drop it. Well, the Packers receiver, whoever it was, wasn't for a touchdown on that specific play, but to get them into the red zone. As soon as I saw Malik start dotting them up beyond just making plays with his legs, I'm like, oh, they're cooked.
Well, sure, but like still, you're coming out of the bye week at 1-3. Like, okay, divisional game, first divisional game of the year.
You may feel that, and we may differ on this. You may have felt that way. I thought they were dead after Green Bay.
But the point is, it was on the table there. It's like, hey, if you beat the Colts at home here, you're 1-0 in the division, you're 2-3. The season is not dead by definition. And then it was.
But we were trying to talk ourselves into the idea of the season not being dead in October.
Sure. Exactly. So that's not the discussion here. Are Titans fans more excited for 2025 than they were for 2024?
What did you have, Robert?
For me, it was after Brian Callahan cried after the Patriots game. Where I think he knew, like, it's about the small victories now. And he
was
went
talking about Tony Pollard and his voice cracked, which is when I asked him the follow-up, hey, how badly did you need this? And he just goes, really bad. It's like, oh.
That's to me when I think
a 2-win Patriots team.
Right. Where you had to scratch and claw for that win.
I've talked to him about that after the fact, and it's just like, you guys were down tremendous at that point in time, and that's the first time that it like publicly bubbled to the surface, like from them, right? We were looking around and being like, oh, they got nothing, but from them, that was the first time that it felt quantifiable. Oh, they don't have answers here. So, Lucas, your point. Make your point again. I just wanted to get.
It's a question. Are Titans fans more excited for the 2025 season? Is optimism higher than it was for the 2024 season?
Many people will say yes, sight unseen, but I don't think that's I think that's a bit disingenuous, to be honest with you, because I think people looked around at Vrabel's last year and Will Levis's rookie year and said, all right, we're going to get a guy that comes in here to maximize the skill set of a quarterback that looks like he belongs in the NFL, and our worst will be a 6-win season, and we'll bounce back and we'll be right into the mix of things. Whereas this year, that's not the tone. Now, that could happen. They could be one of these teams that go worst to first. We have no idea what they're going to be in 2025. So much depends on just what Cam looks like and the supporting cast around him before you can make any kind of definitive statement about the 2025 Titans. But I think people were legitimately thinking they had a playoff team last year. And this year, they're just saying, oh, thank God we've got a quarterback.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing.
That we think we've got a quarterback. But yes, he has made people very excited. Titans fans have to be more wary this year, I would say.
Good.
Like, they're probably bracing themselves a little more than they were last year, where last year was just reckless abandon. Like, let's do this. Let's go for this playoff push.
Yeah, because Chaz on YouTube says, no, I thought we had everything last year.
Yeah.
Even if Levis was average. Because at that time, you were saying, okay, J.C. Latham, maybe he's not a traditional left tackle, but he's good enough and he's got Bill Callahan. That'll fix the offensive line. It didn't. You were looking, we were having conversations about how many players that sucked at the end of Vrabel and Robinson, how many players here could be reclaimed under the new administration, whether it be Nicholas Petit-Frere or Traylon Burks. None of them. Was there a single candidate for a reclamation project on this roster that was otherwise viewed as heading the same way as Caleb Farley, or maybe not to the extreme of Isaiah Wilson, but I don't think there was a single player we brought up in that discussion that actually had the kind of bounce back under the coaching staff that we thought might have been possible. Levis didn't even. Levis got worse. That was the crazy thing. He got so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, there is probably a more honest assessment on where their deficiencies are this year going in. But at the same time, like, the outlook, the level of optimism is not as low as you would think for a team coming off of a 3-win season.
Yeah, but nobody feels, the Browns don't even feel bad about where things are right now.
Really?
Now. No.
Why? Really? I mean, I'm not saying
Robert,
they
weren't
don't.
You telling me that David Njoku was, in media availability here recently, glowing about the offseason, like, not disingenuous. It's kind of like what I looked at with Calvin Ridley.
I'm not talking about what a player says in front of the media. I'm talking about how the market feels, the fan base.
Oh, yeah.
What Browns fan can sit there and say they feel good about the direction just at the quarterback position alone?
No, but they've never been. The thing that I respect, and I do respect it about Browns fans, this is their perpetual existence.
Yes, but they've had seasons where going in, there is excitement. Going into the Baker Mayfield experience, coming out of Baker Mayfield's rookie year, there's excitement. Oh, we might have hit on one of these, right? Going into Deshaun Watson. Polarizing, yes, but excitement for signing a former star who is back at it on a fully guaranteed deal. If you're a Browns fan, like, how can you really get up for, let's just talk about quarterback, for example, for what this team's going to be at the quarterback position? What can you even, like, if you're a Titans fan, you could sit there and play out the best case scenario of Cam Ward, the number one pick in your mind, and be really excited. If you're a Browns fan, like, what scenario are you even playing out in your mind that there's any evidence to back up?
I guess my thing is, like, those moments that you describe where they thought they might have had something with Baker, those are like such a small blip on the Browns.
That was fleeting. Yeah.
So, like, this is more their norm.
But
they get up for their football team anyway, Lucas. Like, I don't worry about Browns fans being invested in the Cleveland Browns. For some reason, my gambling group text is 90% Browns fans.
Well, sure.
And they're talking about Joe Flacco getting them back to the playoffs. I'm serious.
I believe it.
That's if you ask a Jets fan what their season is going to look like in July, Jets fans, who are one of the most tortured fan bases anywhere in America, will tell you, yeah, we mess around and win 9 games. We got a good enough defense. They just need to support the quarterback. This is the season of hope. Nobody feels terrible about their football team right now. They don't even feel terrible about it into training camp. But when the first couple of results play themselves out, you will have fan bases people will be checked in for the first month of the season. And that first month of the season will determine who's fading and who still has reason to hope like you're talking about.
Well, you need to be checked in for the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame Class of 2025 banquet, one of the biggest nights in Tennessee sports. The Hall of Fame Class of 2025 induction banquet, which is presented by the Titans, Saturday, July 19th. It's happening at the Omni Nashville downtown. This class is phenomenal. Gridiron greats, hardwood heroes, everything in between. We're talking about Ron Slay, Shea Weber, Andy Kelly, Coach Doug Matthews, Tamika Catching, so many more legendary names. You can celebrate the legends that have shaped Tennessee sports history. Tickets and tables are going fast, though, so you can reserve them now at tshf.net.
Are you going to that, Robert?
I was going because I thought you were going to pay for my ticket.
I would have had I not scheduled to try, because I was planning on going.
Well, see, now it's much cheaper. Now you only have to pay for one ticket instead of yours.
Oh, well, no. I'm not going, so why would I buy you a ticket?
Oh, you're not going?
No, I'm not going. I forgot that I was going to plan a trip to San Diego and that was the same weekend. So I'm going to be gone that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yes, classic Buck choosing himself over his teammates. Yes.
Listen, I flew to Long Beach on 2 weeks' notice for that man's wedding, okay? I love Ron Slay, and I would do just about anything for Ron Slay. But I've already done I've done that kind of service for Slay at this point.
So you're saying that your friendship has bounds.
Yeah. Yes. When people talk about unconditional love, no, mine has conditions. Absolutely.
Well, I will be there supporting Coach Matthews.
It doesn't sound like it is. It sounds like you're going to try and get somebody to give you a free ticket.
Well, I'm not going to bring Cheyenne because that would mean I would have to pay for 2 tickets. But I will happily go.
No, Cheyenne will go because she'll pay for the tickets. And
I didn't think of that.
Her +1.
Yes, Cheyenne and I will be there.
Anyway, this year, where is the average Titans fan on their level of hope? Is it just about the general future, that is Cam Ward? Because it's not about the immediate with Cam Ward. Some people are, and there's always going to be, you got to do this by division, right? There are going to be people who think that Cam Ward being here on a roster that shouldn't, and Lucas, I tore them apart last year for how bad they were, but they should never have been that bad. They were made so much worse by Will Levis. They were made so much worse by their special teams. They could have been closer to a league average team had they not had, I might argue, the worst quarterback play in the league in 2024 and arguably the worst special teams unit I've ever seen. That roster was not a 3-win roster last year. The quarterback play was 3 wins.
For sure. And it's a roster that largely, like one of the biggest pitfalls of that roster, we're seeing the Titans try to fix in the offseason program. It didn't have cohesion. It didn't have a chemistry, a culture that you need to win.
Yeah, they bought a bunch of things. They threw them into a room and hoped that it coalesced around a quarterback they thought could do more than he did.
Yeah, and it crashed and burned a la Florida State, building a team in the portal going into 2024 and it crashing and burning dramatically. So, yes, quarterback play, special teams play was just this big weight around their ankles that is hard for any team to overcome. But that's also another thing that they just did not have last year that they're really trying to organically build this year.
BTS, which I assume stands for Battered Titan Syndrome, on YouTube says, how can we get our hope up after last year? I'm not telling you that you need to. You approach the season however you want to. My position on it is you do not trust them as an organization. It's not about Cam. You can have full faith in Cam. You can be really excited about Alec Iamaner, and you can trust that Dan Moore is going to anchor your left side and at least give you a fighting chance the way that your previous left tackle configurations have really not until JC kind of came in and held his own, even though he probably had 3 or 4, maybe 5 bad games last year, which is standard for a rookie playing a bit out of position at the left tackle spot. But my thing with the Titans is there's nothing wrong with being optimistic about Cam Ward. You can have optimism about him and still be skeptical of the Titans as an organization.
Yeah, for sure. You can be optimistic about the way the Titans are going about this build in the big picture and still be kind of bracing yourself for what could very well be a 5 to 6 win season. Like, that's absolutely on the table.
It's probably... That's probably where everybody should be with it right now. And then if they come out and they surprise you and they get to 7 or 8, that's great. That's free money, essentially. It's a crappy way to approach your sports fandom, I'm sure, to just be kind of like, oh, well, just wait a second before you get too excited, because there's nothing wrong with being excited or having hope, for sure, especially with how bad it got last year. You've been waiting for hope since mid-October. The thing about them is they have been dysfunctional. It doesn't mean that they have to continue to be dysfunctional. And I'll tell you that it feels a lot more stable over there lately, if for no other reason, Lucas, they keep firing people. Like they want to be the new Titans, right? Whatever that means. And maybe we'll see what it ends up meaning in 2025. Maybe their grand plans will finally come to fruition, and maybe the way that some of them are comfortable, at least in private settings, talking about, the rest of the world will realize that they're playing chess instead of checkers. I would, kind of, what's Coach Mack say? Keep your powder dry on that. But there's nothing wrong with them thinking that they have a plan and trying to execute that plan to the best of their abilities. And the variable that still hovers over all of this thing, which is probably the thing that's holding expectations down the most, is you can't trust your owner. You don't know what she's going to do. The whole patience over panic thing is fine until she decides that she don't want to be patient anymore. It's the most important thing that is the least controllable of any of this. That's a tough spot to exist as a fan base. Now, she may be completely bought in on this and have hired the correct people and will allow them to make their decisions as they see fit. Ultimately, they have to answer to her, but still, she may take a back seat and let the football people do their football jobs the way that Louis Riddick was talking about with us a couple of weeks ago. You remember?
Yeah. It's almost like the optimism for this year is just funneled into one specific thing.
It's just him.
Right. It's really him. Built around him. Yeah.
Because I don't care about the rest of I do care about the rest of the roster, but like, I'm not banking on the rest of the roster in the long term. Like, I don't think L'Jarius Sneed is going to be around here when Cam Ward starts to peak as an NFL player. Calvin Ridley is probably going to be he's going to be a player that matters, but he's not a part of their long-term plans, even though he's got 3 years left on his deal. Nobody thinks that they're going to see the rest of those contracts out based on where things are trending right now. So it's really just about Cam. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Is it Ollie or Allie? Ollie? Okay, Ollie is up next.
What up, Buck? What's up, Lucas? All right, you guys know I love the Titans through and through. But what's there to be excited about? Like, yeah, cool, they got Cam Ward, but I mean, Callahan, what he showed us on the field last year, is he actually a really good coach? And to Buck's point, the owner is a big concern. Like, what's going to happen when Mike Vrabel and the Patriots come here and put a beat down on the Titans? Is Callahan going to get fired and she's not going to be patient anymore? Do you think that could be a possibility of Amy pulling the trigger mid-season? Yeah.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah, all fair. All fair.
And listen, the Titans could come in and kick Mike Vrabel's teeth in, right? We have no idea. No idea, because that's not a good roster either. They are in the spot where you thought you were last year, where they think they may have a quarterback. They're hoping they have a quarterback. We've got all this money. We've got to spend it. That was kind of the Titan. There wasn't much strategy beyond that with the Titans last year. We've got all this money. Who are we going to spend it on? Because you at least have to spend to a certain salary cap floor.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just tell you what. Like, I am excited.
Okay.
Because the Titans have something that they have not had since becoming the Tennessee Titans, and that's a number 1 overall pick at the quarterback position to build around. And I understand he has to show it on the field. Of course he does. But I'd be lying if I didn't say at every turn, watching Cam Ward and just kind of how he carries himself throughout the course of the offseason program, how teammates seem to kind of gravitate towards him, what he seems to be made up of, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't get me really excited for the potential of Cam Ward as a pro. And that, to me, carries over through 2025 as a huge focal point for this season that gets me up for this season. Like, legitimately, I was excited for last year. I also obviously expected better than everybody on the planet than 3 wins. But there's also sort of a different level of optimism that comes with this unknown of a number 1 overall pick at quarterback that is showing all the right things and saying all the right things, but just this still gray area question mark of, yeah, but he still has to show it.
No, and to me, it's less about that because I'm in on Cam Ward. Like I think that we've used the Ray Carthon line before where he's talking about Tajay Spears at the combine and he says, yeah, he's just made of the right bleep, made of the right stuff. I think Cam Ward's made of the right stuff. What would prevent me from being all in on them around him is I don't trust them. There's no reason to. And I think that's completely fair. You can be all in on Cam Ward and still side-eye that organization because there are way more organizations. It's not just about them. It's about the NFL at large. The NFL is not concerned about trying to prop these players up. They should be, but the decision-making around it often leaves players and their careers in their wake. And my only concern is Cam Ward going to be the next one of those? Last call for phone calls. If you've got them, 615-737-1045. We'll get to some more comments in the chat. Wrap up the show coming up next. Well, this would make sense tomorrow before we're off for July 3rd and 4th.
Tell that to my neighbors.
Okay.
They've been shooting them off.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were doing it.
No, it is not.
What is it about people in this state that June the 30th is when people decide to start unloading the arsenal of fireworks? Because my neighborhood sounded like a war zone.
Because that's when the tents go up.
The tents?
That's when those
the
firework
roadside
tents go up.
tents.
We love that down here.
Yep.
Which is fine. We're not in a drought, so your yard won't catch on fire if you're out there launching mortars for July the 4th this year.
I think it's also worth noting Katy Perry's wordsmith here. Listen. Take note. This is it right here. Make them go, ah, ah, ah. God.
Man, it's Will Smith levels of poetry.
That's what I'm telling you.
It's tough to listen to some of the most popular songs that you can think of and just realize how poorly formulated they are. Like they just, this was like if AI put it together, but it was 2012.
Now, I don't want any Katy Perry slander now.
No. Have you not seen the latest?
Oh, I've seen some stuff from her latest tour.
It
looks hilarious.
Really bad.
But for about a decade there, she was on top of the world, hit after hit after hit. But yeah, it hasn't
taken a
sustained.
turn. And now I think people are generally concerned about her well-being based on her behavior at some of these concerts, where she's just sprinting around on stage, just looking a bit manic.
God forbid a woman like to get a little run in. I think where my opinion
I can't even get you to walk downstairs to get your own food from the front office.
Yes, that's why we have interns. Actually, we don't.
We don't. We have Ross. Is he back there?
No, he decided he was just going to meander around the hallways.
I just love that he's just sitting back there the entire time, and the only time we need him is when we want to make fun of his voice.
Okay, stop talking about him. More about me.
Okay.
Katy Perry, my opinion of her changed after they went to the moon. And she came back to the ground and was like
kissing the ground.
Oh, I missed you so much. Being on the moon was so hard for me, because I'm an intergalactic or whatever her song.
Yeah, she didn't
play that up a little bit.
It didn't quite sustain, but only the truly.
I don't know. She had a good run.
Oh, an incredible run.
Like it was sustainable until this most recent album.
But you know what Power is? Power is number one, Taylor Swift, which is multiple eras.
Also another show on FX you probably don't watch.
Power?
Yes, with Snowfall.
Oh, is that a cultural thing that you're alleging?
Yes, I'm saying that neither of you have watched it.
Okay.
Just remind me.
I am familiar with Power. I was not really familiar with Snowfall's game.
No, I just remember A.J. Brown tweeting way too much about Snowfall.
And then there's Lady Gaga, who doesn't put stuff out consistently. I don't know the last time she had a number one hit, but maybe 2 months ago, she had 2.5 million people at a concert on the beach in Rio.
Which is crazy. That would give me anxiety. 2.5 million people.
That's insane.
Her music has also fallen off. But it's not
Lady
for
Gaga?
us. Yes. It's not for us.
I haven't heard anything she's put out in quite some time.
Yeah, what's the most recent Lady Gaga
I don't know.
song?
The most recent Lady Gaga project to me is Star is Born. Or is that what the movie was called?
That's the name of the movie.
For you. That's the most recent one for you.
Yes.
Okay. So the whole reason she went to go do this trip was it South America, Brazil?
Yes. Yes.
The whole reason she went to go do that was to do her new song, which is just terrible.
Bad. Oh,
yeah,
no.
it's downright.
Well, because she put out an album with, is Tony Bennett still alive? Not the Virginia coach.
Yes, he is
the
still
singer.
alive.
Yeah. So Tony Bennett is still with us?
Wow, he is.
That's crazy.
No. He died
recently. I think he died
he died 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
It's been 2 years.
But she had done an album where she's singing lounge music songs with Tony Bennett.
They were very excellent. They were very close there towards the end of his life. He was 96 when he passed 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
Katy Perry or Lady Gaga's most recent number one hit. Anybody have a guess?
Katy Perry?
Lady Gaga.
It's got to be something from the movie. Has to be.
Yeah,
Guy with a Smile. Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. She has only had 5 number one hits.
Oh,
that's
number one
crazy.
hits.
I would have guessed more. Katy Perry probably had 10.
I'd have to check it out.
Yeah,
Hold
but
on.
Katy Perry's more generic.
6 number one hits.
Yes.
Respectfully. Nothing. Listen, Katy Perry had an awesome run. I did not think that this is how we were going to end the show today.
Katy Perry had 9 number one hits.
Yeah.
Tyler Dial with the correct opinion on all of this. Adele greater than all of them.
Correct.
Yes. She's still dating Rich Paul?
And smoking.
To bring this back from smoking cigarettes or
yes.
smoking as far as her
Or
appearance?
both.
Well, yeah, she dropped a good bit of weight. Polls.
Well, hold on now.
No, I didn't have a transition.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What in sports made you say, oh no, this weekend? D. Good says the Sabres' first-round pick looking like he just got read a death sentence after learning where he got drafted by Buffalo. And this picture he includes, this dude is staring into the void in his press conference.
Oh, no, Robert, I completely forgot to ask you about this because you're a Raptors fan. Did you see the draft pick of the Raptors mutter under his breath the F word as he was being called to the stage?
Hate it for you. Get in here and play defense.
Where's he from? South Carolina?
Yep.
Yeah.
Coming to the 6.
Yeah, and he was not happy about it. It was just like while he was walking to the stage that they caught on camera.
Well, that makes two of them because Raptors fans are not happy about this pick either.
Well, it could have been just like a sigh of relief kind of thing, like, oh, thank God it's over type of thing. But the optics of it looked like he was really pissed to go to Toronto.
Thomas has a gif of just Barry Trotz, the Preds GM, as his oh no. Karen submits Manchester City getting upset by Al Hilal in the Club World Cup last night. Massive upset with the Saudi Arabian side knocking off the one of the best teams in the world in Man City. Club World Cup has been electric, man. Who will win more games in 2025? Tennessee or Indiana? 78.5% say Tennessee. Cole says comparing that cupcake schedule to the SEC, but we put them side by side, man. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Indiana and Tennessee's schedules are that there's that much of a gap there.
That's
going
fair.
to Penn State and going to Oregon in the same season, that's tougher. I'll say that's tougher than going to Bama and Florida this year. What is the best fighting movie? Yesterday we did racing movies. Today we gave away UFC tickets.
Whose
so what's the
idea is
best
this?
fighting movie? Oh, there's so many. Ryan says Roadhouse. Oh, love Roadhouse.
I don't think I ever saw it. Are you talking about the original or the one with the roided up Conor McGregor?
Not the Jake Gyllenhaal one. Gyllenhaal, whatever. Sigmund says Bloodsport, which I've never seen.
That's 5 names he's gotten wrong today.
Eldon says Fight Club, which is a fantastic submission.
I don't think I've ever seen Fight Club.
Beer Rules Forever, which is funny.
Please clip that. That's gonna be used as sound.
He says
Are
John
you
Wick.
okay? Do you need a cigarette?
John Wick. You've seen John Wick?
No, I haven't seen John Wick.
That's not a fighting movie.
He does a lot of fighting in that
The only
movie.
thing I've heard about John Wick is somebody kills his dog and he goes on a warpath, yeah?
Yes.
All right, then
That's pretty much it.
I don't need to watch that.
It's awesome.
The
It's
correct
awesome.
answer wasn't given. It's Warrior.
Warrior's a great movie. Nobody said Rocky, which I am surprised by.
I don't think they hold up.
What's the Christian Bale, Mark Wahlberg boxing movie?
Oh, I think it's just called The Fighter.
Yes. Oh, it was fantastic. Christian Bale won Best Supporting Actor for it. It was fantastic. But I think I'd have to go Fight Club for sure. Those are the polls.
Very good. One more show until we take a long holiday weekend. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Prime time, no prime time for me tonight. So we hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll talk to you tomorrow.